Hello and welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. This is a live stream. I usually do on Thursday nights. I'm doing it a little earlier because of the lore tours and stuff like that. But yeah, welcome. It's a stream where I talk about. I think I should increase my camera size here too. Talk about the lore of Star Citizen as well as anything else like news and updates. How y'all doing? For those of you who haven't known, I've been on the Astro Historian channel doing recordings of live broadcasts of the lore tours that we've been doing through IAE 2953. So. We talk about lore here too, not just necessarily only just lore though, like the Astro Historian. We're going to be focusing mostly on the various videos and updates and the news mostly. Dang, CIG almost has 500,000 subscribers. So we're going to go through a couple of these videos, and then we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about them. Hey, Shush Daddy. And hi, 91. You didn't. I'm going to be doing ISC here in a moment. I'm also going to be doing SCL, so we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. Normally, we do this on Thursdays instead of Fridays, but because of that's the other thing. It's Friday, not Thursday. My brain's all sort of discombobulated. The reason why we're doing this today, is because of Thanksgiving. So I was spending time with my family. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Star Engine, the new Star Engine trailer. I'll watch this live at CitizenCon, so it'll be interesting to see how different it is. Easy. I remember people were like, "This couldn't be taking that long," and they just said, like, "Yeah, no, we condensed stuff because we wanted to, just so we wouldn't spend like 40 minutes." It's already pretty long. 30 minutes, something. 24 minutes, yeah. So some people are saying it's basically entirely different. I don't think you should take that as meaning it's all fake, because this is all done in engine. And really what I would take away from it is that the version we got at CitizenCon was the rushed version, the version they needed to get out for time, and this is more of the version they would actually have time to do so. This is Starfield. Starfield, this is Star Citizen. Starfield is, you talked about the Starfield. still see some of the pop-ins there with some of the stuff that tells you that it's definitely an engine. They also added more ships there. They didn't have ships flying around. Those are new, yeah. I'll turn it down a little bit. Just make sure you can hear it, you know. Hey, Steph. I love the music. The music is great. Pedro absolutely knocked it out of the park. I see a Voidy fan right there, Ronan. They added more animations for the NPCs as well. Some of the voices as well. This is what the clouds look like in game right now. It might be a little bit better than they usually are because they've been working a hell of a lot of. They've been fucking bouncing on that really hard. That's the sort of stuff. No, my experience, these clouds are pretty close to what we have right now. Though it could be they also added the new technologies that they've been working on with clouds, like cloud scattering and such. The ground fog is definitely something that's not in game yet. That's something they're adding in 3.22. So. Yeah, I mean they're only going to get better than this. That's definitely the new addition that they're adding with clouds and the shadow renders. That's definitely the new one. They need the Boyds, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we got things like deer and stuff like that in some of the forests as well. Just earth deer. They might go for some of the more exotic looking deer species that exist on Earth. That means moose. The one thing that can survive in negative 300 degrees Celsius temperature is a fucking moose. We're gonna watch it here in a bit, Nova. Hey, here we go. Kazi grazers, baby. Space cows. Native of Terra. You don't milk them. They don't have udders. They have eggs. Yeah, those udders are not udders. Those are eggs. No blue milk. Milk eggs? No, they're just eggs. I do think that the quantum simulation here looks a lot better than the one that they had at CitizenCon. Oh, it looks so good. I love the new quantum simulation. I think it's a good like mixture of the old and the new. Christ, I know that because they did a lore thing on it. You don't need chickens when you got Kazi grazers. Oh, look! Yeah, it looked great. I think the Yogi's presentation is more like along the lines of what this was. That this was than this was the very beginning. Grim Hex. By the way, look at the speed indicator when flying along the storm wall. Yeah, they go fucking like 3 times the speed of sound. Hey, Rest a Pigeon. You can imagine that the wind speed in where they are is also probably different from where we are in Orison, because the preserves are just slightly different from where we are in Orison. 700 meters per second. Remember, they're made up of mostly hydrogen. Thank you, Rusty. Well, I'm going to back it up a little bit just so you get the idea. This is the first time we saw them at CitizenCon, but we've seen them since. So we know that the models and the movement is in engine and in game. No, there's no minables on them, I don't think. There's not much meat on a space well. The storm wells don't have a lot. So. Yeah, about Mach 2. I also wouldn't put a lot of like. Here we go. Welcome to interspace. This is a tunnel through interspace, but you can see some sort of like the rippling sides on the sides. The idea being that this is a different dimension. This is a tunnel that goes through a different dimension that goes from one point to another point in space. So, yeah. They changed that. 9.83 AU. It used to be 13 AU. They definitely reduced the AU for that. Also, I wouldn't put like the speed to heart too much on the storm walls. I'm sure that's just more of they want to do it for dramatic effect. They'll probably be a little bit slower, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go damn near Mach 1. How are y'all getting 7 ads? So interspace is Star Citizen equivalent to Star Wars hyperspace? Not necessarily. It's probably closer to slip space from hyperspace. The closest equivalent to hyperspace would be quantum jumps. It's most similar to like slip space from Halo or I think it's called hyperspace in Babylon 5, where it's like a completely separate dimension. It's like the warp in 40K. Hopefully all done for the show. No. Ads pop in twice every hour. So that's all we do. So you'll get another one in probably in about an hour. Tattoos. Yes, it's like subspace. Yeah. Maybe an actor. I'm curious what other planets vibe would be in Pyro. I only see a tiny piece, right? We've only seen 3 out of the 6 worlds plus several moons. I think it's like 4 moons. So yeah. If CIG is such an evil JPEG scam company like Star System Refund says, why do they have such small ship teams that produce their few ships every year? Do they not like money? Are they stupid? What are they, stupid? Yes, they're stupid. That's the answer. What happens when your ship hits a jump point wall? I think you get bounced back and forth until you just get destroyed or really damaged. Yeah, there's 6 moons around Pyro 5, plus one of them is Pyro 4. Hey, Target Drone, thank you so much for the 27 months. For some reason it doesn't come through.
My spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never.
Never.
Ever.
Ever.
Take away my space game.
T4R Get Drone just resubscribed for 27 months.
Thanks for Twitch Prime subs for 27 months. You are a very important pub, a very impressive business, a very good pedestrian. This is your fault. The reason I'm drinking night. Shots and cheers and chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Let's get back to Mugus. Pyro 3. I don't think it has a name because Pyro 1 is Bloom, I think. This might be Bloom, though. What ship would you pick for pledge if you could only pledge for one at $300 or less? I mean, if you're doing less, then like the Freelancer or the Cutlass is fine. The Cutlass actually has a package associated with it, which is less than 300, way less than 300. You don't really need much other than that. That's the maximum I would go for somebody who's trying to start off anyways, because if you go any beyond that, you're looking at like profession ships or multi-crew ships that like require multiple people to run. Connie is okay. Corsair might be a little bit better for that one.
Drugs.
Isn't that coming through? Melvin Smile, thanks so much for that 9 months of support. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser of any pedestrian. Apparently it's broken on my side. I don't know what's going on with that. They're actually panicking instead of just standing there. That's the advantage. That's what I would expect for them to do. Nope, she's not still walking through the flames. So it's a 50-50 split, first of all, when you sub to Twitch in the streamer, and it is the only way to get rid of ad-free views. You can do Twitch Turbo, which gives you more ads. I get a portion of it, but I don't get nearly as much from based off a sub. So. I wouldn't get butthurt if y'all use an ad blocker, trust me. Is it being too optimistic that we'll have the Perseus by the end of 2024? I think it's probably too optimistic. We'll definitely have the Polaris, but I don't think the Perseus. You can see the frames drop a little bit here. Yeah, I get a small portion of money for Turbo. I think it's about the same amount I'd get for ads. I love the water simulation. God, that... It's struggling. You can see the FPS just dipping. Oh, it was smoother in the original video, 100%. See, this is just showing the fuck off, all right? When I saw that at CitizenCon, I'm just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Yes, we get it. Last Jedi, or Force Awakens, we get it. War crimes! Looks a little weird when they broke up like that because there's no because you could see the break them up into even pieces. It might be my computer that's struggling to handle it, but it's for me it's Turn it down to 100, 1080. No, I think it's the video. Hey, look, it's Kyle Kestis. That was great. So yeah, I like that update, and it's got already 310 views. I'm looking at some of the comments. I can see why they took them a little bit longer to get that out there, so. Let's do the Arastra. Yeah, it was the old origin intro.
The Argo SRB is the tow truck of the universe. It is that single player, I want to rescue, recover.
Question, there's a lot of crossover between MISC and Argo. What's the differences between them? MISC is heavy industries in general, and Argo is much more, logistics. So Argo is focused around improving the life of people on a planet or in stations, whereas MISC is more about the industries you do in between. The only kind of weird offshoot with Argo is the mole. The mole is the weird kid compared to the MPUV, the raft, the SRV, and the. That's it, right? Yeah, that's it for now. That's a good way of putting it. Argo builds to support the industry. MISC builds to expand the industry. Argo builds logistics. MISC builds, or MISC does logistics. Argo does infrastructure, kind of thing. Very similar. They're similar enough, but like MISC builds stuff to gather or transport, and Argo builds stuff that takes that transport and then like unloads the transports or moves it to where it needs to go.
Retrieve other vehicles in the game.
It's
SRE stands for Standard Recovery
Arastra is not going to be a flyable ship, though.
Vehicle.
It's for tugging other ships around. Maybe they're disabled, maybe it's a difficult docking situation that needs help.
It's meant for when you've got ships stranded out in space that they need some help. You're there with your flashing lights and your bright orange ship to go and rescue them.
It's for the player that wants to help rather than go out murdering.
You often go out murdering?
Yeah. I often go out murdering.
Argo tow things.
Argo has a very strong visual style in our game, so there's a few kind of core elements that we knew we had to have. It's got to be orange, there's no question about that. It needs to have kind of VTOLs that rotate, it needs to have big engines at the back, and it needs to feel kind of super industrial and very functional compared to a lot of our other manufacturers. One of the things that we learned early on when we were doing Argo ships as a manufacturer is, as the orange is such a bold color, we really want to kind of keep that contained as much as we can. So what we try and do now with our Argo ships is we still want them to be orange, we still want them to be very recognizable, but we want that all to be contained within one area, and then the underside is kind of like the more mechanical area and the kind of black bellies. And I think that difference between the tops and bottoms really helps to add some believability to the vehicle. Not everyone loves orange, so we will have different paint options available.
The Argo SRV has 3 tints. It has a really nice white one and a black and yellow one, which is my favorite. And it has also this blue beigey one, which I think out of all the ships is kind of new for Argo, that kind of color combination.
I like that blue.
My favorite thing about the exterior of the SRV is that it's very consistent with both the mole and the raft. It has this diamond shape on the top with the circular feature. I like that kind of consistency. It really feels like a family of ships.
Originally, the SRV didn't have much of an interior, but we pushed for like a bigger one.
We've tried to balance both the Argo utility feeling that everyone loves, along with keeping it nice enough that you could bring in a couple of explorers whose ship's down. You'll enter the engineering area. This is actually where you enter the ship. The airlock or the lift is in the floor of that room. Within this room contains all the components for the SRV. It's kind of like the raft's corridor, but all compacted and refined more into a single space, so everything's kind of jammed in there, so you can access everything at once if you need to. Moving on, you'll go onto the bridge. You'll sort of be greeted by your standard Argo styling, your space trucker seat, your ball bars and your nice angled glass. Then moving on to the rear of the ship, you've got the habitation area. In the habitation area, you've also got bed for if you're long hauling, the suit locker for going into hazardous places, and like a gun rack, so you've still got that utility in there as well.
My favourite little bit about that is it's got like a sort of like rest and recovery area for the person being rescued. So they don't have to stay in their busted up soft depth ship. They can come over to the SRV, sit at the table, get like a recovery coffee.
That you can kind of sit down and look out and you can see your ship being towed by the SRV.
The Argo SRV has a very large tractor and towing beam assembly on the rear of the ship that the pilot controls. So they navigate towards the vehicle, swap to the turret view that controls the tractor beam, and then they position it and lock onto that ship. Reasons why you would use it: maybe you've run out of fuel and you don't want to pay some exorbitant staff owners fees to refuel. You want your friend to come tow you back to a spaceport. And most importantly,
most people don't know that you can get repaired from soft def now. But obviously, you won't be in a safe place if you got put into soft def. So the SRV is...
God damn it, Adam. I just realized who that was. So those who don't know, that's Adam Parker, who's a gigantic Warhammer fan.
Going to come along, tow your
now
ship
I
to a
recognize
safe location
the
where it can get
shirt.
repaired. It's like a car recovery vehicle if you break down on the motorway sort of thing.
can be towed back to a spaceport, and then that ship can be repaired back to a state of flight.
The SRV really begins to shine.
So here's the thing. You can do soft death. You can repair from soft death. You have to have your landing gear down. So you have to have your landing gear down when you were disabled. Otherwise, it won't work. That's the problem.
Once the resource management system comes into play, because you won't always be in full soft def. You could have messed up your engines.
Thrusters could have malfunctioned. Power plants could be worn out and need replacing. All these things are going to result in ships that are fairly immobile or ground vehicles that are immobile. And we don't want players to just simply go and claim on their insurance for these things as their first port of call. We want people to recover it. It's going to be much more beneficial to you in the short and long term.
Yeah, no, the SRV can carry a lot of, like, very pretty heavy, but it can't quantum anything bigger than itself.
In terms of using the SRV, the shields need to be down on the target vehicle or ship. So that could be the player has willingly lowered their shields, or they're in a state where the shields no longer function. And it needs to be not fighting against the SRV in terms of movement.
Correction, that does, Mr. Shelley does that doesn't work. CIG is lying. From what I've heard, From other players. They've tried it with the gear down. It works with it has gear down. You just never have your gear down when you're soft deathed.
The idea of making a tow truck, I think, is a great idea. When you're a little boy and you grow up and you see the breakdown vehicles sat at the side of the road with the flashing lights on, being able to kind of recreate that, but for our own audience is...
If the shield's up coming during the tow, I think it breaks. Have they tested it with the soft death vehicle already having its gear down?
It's super fun.
So that's the SRV, and it is another great entry point into a support career.
We've got a lot of combat and commerce type ships, but it's the next true support class vehicle.
For those of you who don't want to fight, don't want to haul goods, the SRV is there to help you support other players and NPCs in the game.
You want me to say I'll be a tow truck driver? I'm more of a Drake guy.
So you're more of the getting towed guy?
I'm definitely more of the getting towed guy, yeah. I will need a friend with an SRV nearby.
It's for good people who like to help others, unlike Drake owners.
You're up, you're down. At the most they have been able to work is to refuel the ship. It doesn't repair it to a functional state. Okay. So it brings the screen up, but it doesn't actually function. Okay. So that's wrong. So yeah. So CIG just straight up lied to you, to your face. See, chat. CIG lied to your face and told you that something's in the game that's not in the game. And then they had to backtrack. So.
The Intergalactic Aerospace...
They clarified in SCL, but that doesn't mean they didn't lie to your face. The difference between this and SCL is that more people will watch this than an hour live stream. Trust me, I know these sorts of things.
Expo is our annual celebration of all things ship and vehicle in the Star Citizen universe. Whether that's alien starters like the Gattac Sulin, stylish cargo craft like the Crusader Spirit C1, personal people tanks like the Tumble Storm, or the recently made flyable space tow truck, the Argo SRV. And yes, I know, and I can already see the YouTube comments now.
We already got that ship yesterday.
Well, I like spaceships, and I like the people that make spaceships, and I like showcasing their development. But I hear you, so let's move things forward and discuss...
Trouble Magnet, I'm going to be very clear on this. I don't mind the kind of brief look at IS or SCL that Nubify does. Nubify does a fantastic job, but especially when it comes to information, it's like unless it's very specifically information that Nubify thinks is important, he will cut out information which could be important without watching it yourself. This is the reason why I do the reading of the monthly reports and don't do a summary, because like you can do a summary, which is like 5-10 minutes, but it usually defeats the purposes of actually reading through because there's a lot of other stuff that gets in there. So the Yakko shirt, yeah. Hence the homage at the end of this.
The new concept vehicle that's making its debut this Saturday, the RSI Arastra.
Last year for CitizenCon, we did a vote to decide what vehicle you wanted to see next, and the winner was the mining ship. So what we ended up doing is the large RSI mining ship, which has turned out to be the RSI Arastra.
What is Arastra?
Absolutely no idea.
Primitive mill, that's used in grinding ores, I think.
The name Arastra derives from the ancient mining tool and technique.
So in Star Citizen, we have a number of mining ships already. We've got the Prospector, which is kind of like your starter hour. The Mole is that kind of first multi-crew ship. It allows you to go out with a few friends and kind of try and work a profit together. And then the top of the scale, we've got the Orion. That's the kind of end game of mining. And we saw this gap between the two. So the RSI Arastra is the ship that fills that gap. So the Arastra kind of combines the core visual elements that we've kind of developed over the years of RSI. It still has that definite triangular arrowhead shape to it, so it still feels at home within the RSI family.
Arastar, to drag in Spanish. Someone's brought that up before. I think Arastra is Latin, and it probably comes from, because literally the way it works is they have like a big cylinder and you put like a rock and then you move this as you move, like in the cylinder with kind of like these gears, and you move the rock around. It kind of goes around the like middle cylinder, usually like a pit, and just kind of crushes everything along the sides of it with it. So yeah, it's a rock mill. So it's kind of like dragging. You kind of like drag it against the sides of the thing until it breaks. So.
One of the things we struggled with a little bit at the beginning when concepting it was we didn't want it to feel too sleek. It really needs to feel like it had a functional purpose, and that really led us down exposing a lot more of the industrial elements. We've built on the idea of RSI layering in their ships to kind of really expose the core framework of the ship down the central kind of columns.
It also has a much more comfortable habitation for the crew to live on. It's got plenty of utility on board for day-to-day life, as well as a place to actually land additional vehicles in the back.
It has everything you need to spend a large amount of time away from dock, away from station. It's got an onboard refinery. It's got a large amount of ore storage, as well as onboard cargo. It's a kind of big, serious mining ship, and it allows for a crew of up to 5 to kind of go out and really kind of step into that professional level mining outfit without requiring, you know, a big capital ship.
We have multiple stations for different people to actually mine at the same time as each other.
They're all sat together in a very RSI-like bridge section. The remote turrets that are on the Arastra all have some level of transformation in terms of their location. The 2 at the front can slide backwards and forwards along, so you don't require the pilot to have to go left a bit, go right a bit.
But then we also have a large one in the center, which can descend through the middle of the ships.
Can actually transform down through the ship and out the bottom to cover the other side.
Cool.
So,
and I heard someone say, that's a waste of space. And it's like, but it's rule of cool, baby. I'm okay with it being rule of cool.
Really, you can mine in 360 degrees with this ship.
And as it cuts through the ship, you can actually see the turret as it travels from one side to the other.
And then additional crew members can help either position the ship if they want to change location, or deal with the mined goods at the rear of the ship in the cargo bay. But the ship can also hold ground mining vehicles. If you are planet side, some of those crew members could take mining vehicles that you've stored aboard out and do some surface mining whilst the ship hangs around nearby to tackle some ground mining rocks. So this ship is really perfectly placed for people who want to go mining but don't quite know what they're going to encounter along the way. They are equipped to tackle anything on the surface, anything on space.
One of the benefits of concepting the Arastra now is that we know a lot more about our game, a lot more about how mining works and kind of features in the game.
So here's something that I pointed out. I think CIG is miscalculating their own numbers, because if I count this correctly, they have at least 1, if not 2 stations for refining, plus they have 2 or 3 mining arms with 3 operators. So that's at least 5 right there. And assuming that the mining operator is different from the pilot, then you also have a pilot, possibly a co-pilot as well. Probably more like at least 1 pilot. And then you have space for 2 ground vehicles. So the actual like minimum crew would be 5, but it likely is more 10 is the max crew. So they could definitely do dual role stuff, but the minimum crew is probably more like 6. Like that's you know, 3 mining, 2 refining, or 1 refining and one pilot sort of thing. But it may not be efficient.
That gives us a much better understanding of what's important for a mining ship. And that's one of the things that we'll take on to when we kind of deliver the Orion in the future.
So this is a great example of how development on some ships improves and expedites others. Compared to the Orion, this bridges the gap in a few nice ways.
That's also not talking about the engineer, because you're definitely going to need an engineering position for these larger ships too. So
it leverages all the existing mining loops and mechanics that we have in game at the moment, whereas the Orion is going to be solely mining in space. It is a big ship designed for sitting out in deep space, mining big asteroids. It won't be capable of going down to planet size and mining on there.
What we kind of learned from the Orion is that a lot of our RSI ships feel very, very aggressive. They feel very military and fast. And if you think of like a big industrial mining ship, the Orion is kind of the opposite to that. It's this huge kind of bulky ship that is very purpose-built. And what we want to do with the Arastra is take the lessons that we'd learned from that and combine that with some of the more modern RSI art styles and manufacturing techniques.
The Arastra is the sort of all-in-one mining ship. You've started hand mining at the very start. You've progressed to, say, a rock as the next step, then a prospector, then a mole. This is the big step that lets you do a bit of everything. You can mine, you can refine, you can transport. And then if you want to go even deeper into that, then you go off to the Orion at the end.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the SRV is another fine addition to the working class gameplay Argo always seems to specialize in. That the RSI Arastra wants to be the next big step in the
You're going to always need to have someone managing power systems.
evolution of mining gameplay before its even bigger Orion sibling arrives farther down the line. And that IAE continues to be the biggest ship and vehicle event of
I haven't seen anything that saves the mole to the Arastra other than the price. The price and the crew size. You only need 3-4 people for a mole. You need 5 people for a minimum, if not more, for a Arastra. It's also its size. It's like saying there's no point in having a freelancer because the Connie exists. Or the Corsair exists. It's like, why do we have the Cutlass when we have when the Corsair exists? Why not just get the Corsair? Yeah, so you can use 3. There we go. Yeah, that's the other thing, Wild Lurker, you're right too, is cost. To take out an Arastra is going to cost you a lot more money just to refuel, repair, manage than it will for a mole. So there's 3 mining heads. There's 2 on the sides and 1 in the middle. Do you think they'll slot into the RSI sprint after the Perseus? Probably.
Of the year. But it's also Thanksgiving. And today, while we continue to always give thanks to you, the citizens of the verse who make all of this possible, I want to give a special thanks personally to the folks behind the ships. Now, all of the ships and vehicles in Star Citizen are only made possible by the variety of content, gameplay, and feature teams all contributing to their look, feel, performance, and overall experience. Despite a few YouTube comments that seem to think Dan McCabe makes some of these things all by himself. Because there's like 62 people on the vehicle content team alone. If only there were a way to make everybody remember that. Perhaps with the power of song. All right, relax. I wouldn't do that to you. Even I'm not that cringe. So for Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Yeah, wait for it. Wait for it.
And now, the developers of our vehicles by Disco Lando.
Kingsley Von Walker, Nate Lang, Adam Parker, Chris Law, Ben Curtis, John Crew, Alberto Petronio, Ben Parr, and Luke Mello, George Coffin, Rich Towler, too, Corey Bemper, Aaron Egan, and Patrick Solano, Al Parker, Mark Gibson, and Still, Kevin Turney, then Vimal, and Jin, and Zaheen, and Josh Crow, and Jay Tonks, and Lars Lopkins, Samuel Brito, Chris Diggs, Bradley Vincent, Tom Hoskins, Chris Smith, April Dillons as well, Matt Vieira, Matt Monty, Matt Gron Jones, Evan Jr., Cy Bulmer, and Dunk. Owen and Alex and Alman and Haiti and Leith Livio and Lorenzo. Davender Peliquin, Dan Dexter Taylors, and don't forget Man and Triero. With Hosmer McCabe and then Bartram and Tobero, Cooney and Dree and Kel Norris. I'm way past my time, but we still have designers like Josh Lee, Pete Tom and Mercedes. There's Stocko and Adam and Corwin and Harry and Ben and Paul Jones.
That's great. So those were made by a fan who gave it to them for that. So yeah, it's good. What's your thoughts on the Arastra? It's weird that people, yeah, there's a J Tonks. It's weird. I think it's weird that people kind of immediately think that the Arastra is going to Like, there's no point in having the mole. Just go to the Arastra. It's like, since you'll figure it out. Nothing. That's his real name. His name is Jay Thomas.
Maxwell just got a sub from Keniac89. Keniac89 gifted a tier 1 sub to Maxwell.
Thank you for gifting that sub to Max. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Here we go.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Dry Khan just resubscribed for 25 months.
Thank you so much, Dracon, for that 25 months. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very pedestrian. This is your fault. The reason we're drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. I mean, I agree. The mole has a place, but having refining on the ship will make me think I'd rather struggle with 3 players to run it than a mole.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Laidback Geek has subscribed.
Thank you so much for that subscription there, Laid Back Geek. You are a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very needed pedestrian. This is your fault. You're the reason drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Burp. I do love that some people think that the aesthetic is so much more important to some people than functionality. Aesthetic is important as well. Again, though, you're dealing with a situation where CIG's already kind of pointed out that a prospector won't be able to mine the larger nodes. You need a mole to make it easier. So in order to go from a prospector to an Arastra is going to take a lot longer with a lot more grinding than going with a mole. Besides, you're also going to need to get people to help you out anyways, so there's a lot of different factors in there. It's like, why would you get a Cutlass, like I said, over a Corsair? Well, Cutlass is soloable. It has a little bit more flexibility. It's smaller. It doesn't cost as much. It's probably gonna be easier to maintain too. Corsair can also be soloable, but not quite as good solo as a Cutlass. But no one says that the Cutlass is completely defunct because the Corsair exists. They can both exist in the same way. For sure, looking at cross ships, Spirit versus Cutlass versus Zeus Mark II. They say the same thing. What do you mean? The Zeus Mark II is going to probably handle like a boat. It's very much a big ship compared to the other ones. Hey, Galactic Elf. I think it's a misunderstanding of how Star Citizen functions in terms of like as a game, because like a lot of folks will say Star Citizen will basically argue the point that because you can buy a Javelin, let's just say, that you can, the game is pay to win because you pay this Javelin and you can't lose, without factoring in the cost to take it out, the cost to store it, the crew sizes you needed for it, even if you're paying for NPCs, the cost to upgrade it, because I believe it comes with no weapons, So like those sorts of things. Star Citizen isn't built like that. It's not designed like that. It's designed as a ladder of a ladder of violence. The higher you go up, the more shit you have to do. It becomes more complicated, and it becomes more of a pain in the ass. It becomes more of a chore to use bigger ships than it is an advantage. It gives you some advantage for sure, but you're going to require so much more logistical support that, you know, it won't even really matter. Jav is a terrible miner. If I buy a gray market non-CCU ship, melt it, and then rebuy with new money, does it become giftable again? Yes, as long as it's repurchased with real money. I believe so. But that's a question you'd have to ask CIG, but don't ask them because they'll ask about gray markets. They'll say no. So like that's, and I think that comes from that basic problem. It's like, well, it has a refinery on it. It's like, yeah, but you have to use the refinery, which means you're going to have to use your own power plants versus dumping it off. It has its place. The Arastra has its place. The Mole has its place. They're just going to be different types of mining, and especially when you have that ladder of progression. Does it mix context there? Not really. It's the same kind of idea. Because it's like the whole concept of the Arastra being better, so why would you purchase the Mole, is the same idea of being like, why would you purchase anything else if you can get the best ship in the game? Like, oh, just get the Orion. Like, what's the point of the Arastra? The Orion's better. You know? Just buy the Orion. No, it's not. It's just, it requires, I think, 10 crew members. But it's not insta-refined, though, Rambo. The spirit is a cutlass killer mentality. Oh, okay, yeah, it's the problem about the fundamental problem when comparing ships together is that people will always want to have the ship that isn't the bad ship. They don't want to be the person who ends up with the ship that's useless. It's the same mentality as console gaming, console warfare. It's like people are like, well, I don't want to have made the wrong choice when I purchased the stuff. It's like, because people get pretty invested in their choices. That's what makes players buy more ships. One is better than over another. Yeah, but they're not really the case. Like, let's look at the Vanguard versus the Hurricane. On paper, the Hurricane wins every single time. But you need two people. You don't need two people to use most of the guns on the Vanguard. Plus, also pilot skill matters. You know, range matters, because the Hurricane's not doing any kind of ranges that the Vanguard can do. So like, there's a lot of factors in the game that people don't think about because they're used to living in a bubble that is Stanton. They're not used to things like ranges, repairing, costs of fuel, costs of storing your vehicle. There's so many different variations that CIG is going to fuck with that's going to make people like realize that those ships aren't good for everything. Yeah, and you can log out in the middle of space with Vanguard, so you can go much more for the distances. Question, is it true that CIG put the F8C on shop? I heard rumors. Yes, but it's only if you already had redeemed your golden ticket, but didn't buy the ship. Thoughts on buying a $1,000 Endeavor Master Set? Don't. Unless you absolutely want all of them, don't. If you're dead set on buying the Endeavor right now, $350 is all you need. But if you're still one of those people just like, well, I just want to lock it in at that price, just get a $10 CC upgrade from the Genesis or the Gemini, the Starfarer Gemini to the yeah, that's it. You get LTI with the master set. When is Star Citizen releasing? Never. Soon, TM. I mean, sometime between tomorrow and 20 whatever, when does the sun explode again? Sorry. Did you hear tomorrow? Indeed you did. It's a question we get a lot, fans who play the game. The game is currently released in the sense that you can play it. Right now you can play it for free. You just have to have a game package. But it's still in an alpha state. So it's like an early access, really. It's progressing pretty quickly in the last couple of months. They've done a lot of stuff for it. And it sounds like they're pretty confident in terms of what they're doing in the next year or so. But it is definitely not in a state that I would say is friendly to everyone. So they do these frequent free flies where you can play the game for free for like a couple of weeks if you don't have a game package, and you can see if you like it or not and see if it's up for you. It's actually really good. Like performance-wise, it's great compared to what it used to be. It's one of the best free flights I've ever experienced in terms of like problems. I haven't experienced a single server crash. It's all any crashes I've been experiencing are internal, like crash desktop. So it's playable. It's just not necessarily fun. Question. What are my odds of getting the Phoenix tomorrow? Very low. I know this is speculation. Keniak asks question. I know this is speculation. But do you think CIG might use the Arastra as a stepping stone in implementing larger scale of mining before they need to tackle massive scale mining the Orion will need? I mean, possibly. But it's not coming out in the next 2 years, so. I was logged in today for 30 minutes, then the game decided to close the desktop and close Discord as well. That's a crashed desktop, not a 30K though. I've seen that happen quite frequently. Well, not frequently. I've seen it happen more frequently than it have in the past, but not often. Paul, when are you going to do the playtest of the hacking runs? What hacking runs? Are you talking about the heist? I'm gonna start doing the heist stuff soon. TM. Once I'm not doing lore tours anymore. No blue light activated at 5:40 p.m. What the fuck? What are you talking about? The Phoenix is limited. Yes, I believe. I was lucky I was able to get Squad 42 for $20 when it was $20 separate add-on in the to the Cutter game pack last IAE. Was I lucky? Yes, you were. It's going to go up. It's likely going to be probably like $30 add-on or like a $70. Might say a $20 add-on because it's $45 right now plus for the game package plus $20, so that would be $65. Because I'm almost guaranteed it's that Squad 42 standalone is going to be between $60 and $70. Question, Paul, Which manufacturer do you wish had more lore? All of them have a lot of lore, actually. There's one manufacturer that doesn't have a lot of information behind its ships, which would be Argo. Argo would probably be my choice, yeah. Argo. Only one ship has lore behind it. That's it. I'd say CIG will probably stick Star Citizen's 142 to be $60, just because that was the original plan. I don't see them doing $70 release because, like, yeah, it would be worth it, but I think they gain more from keeping it $60 than, or from releasing it $60, especially Squadron 42, than they gain that extra $10 for sales. So, because they already have that kind of shaky. They're kind of a shaky like reputation. It's their first game released under Cloud Imperium Games, so I think $60 gives them a little bit more coverage for that, or at least it prevents them from being kind of rammed over that. So, are you talking to me, Moonrider? I don't do modeling. I don't work for CIG. Laidback Geek asks question. Paul, which manufacturer? Oh, yeah, I already asked that. Yeah, it's that. So what's your guess on the new RSI price, the Arastra? I'm guessing between $550 and $600. Fuck, marry, kill, Star Citizen species. Okay, we gotta. I'm going there. Kill the Xi'an because they would stab you in the back first. Wild Time with the Bandu, and then marry the Tavaran because they're super loyal, so they're easy. Orion is going up to $650, Remiko. That's what it's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be $650. That's the reason why I said $550. Humans count as a species, not an alien species. What do you know, filthy Xenos, piss poor Pete? Question: since the freelancer and myself have the same birth year, is it truly the connection? Is there truly a connection there? You were born in 2913 or 2915 in your height. You've always been like connected to freelancer in a special way. Oh, is it 39 at this point? Okay, that makes sense. I think he's lying about his birth year. I think he's saying that, like, because right now in 2953, the freelancer is 49, so it'll be 39, so it'll be 40 years tomorrow, next year. No, 2 years. Because yeah, it turns 40 in 40 in 2955. Yeah, the in-game, so right now in-game, it's 2953. The freelancer was first built in 2915. So it'll be 40 years old as of not next year, but the year after next. The TVA have been alerted to your presence. That means BMM to Orion CCUs. Does it? Question: any chance for big retcons like the Crusader Ares becoming a Kruger ship, or the 300 series being renamed to 200 series to make room for Cuddy Lancer 300 series? No, probably not. Moonrider, who are you talking to? 3 days ago, I got my game locked up and I had a game prompt, resyncing server countdown, and then the game unfroze. It went really well. Yeah, I've had that before a lot of times these days, but there's been a lot of server savers, it seems like. All right, I'm gonna go use the restroom. When I come back, we're gonna watch. Did I get to test the replication layer at all? I am not a I'm not an Evocati, so I used to be. I think they still give me access to it, but I wouldn't be able to talk about it anyway if I did. Do we have a good guesstimate? $550 would be my guesstimate. Do you think RSI shows us Meta Ursa? Maybe, but not today. I don't think so. It'd be a very busy day if they did 2 ships at the same time. All right, when I come back, we're gonna watch the Star Citizen live, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. So, be right back, chat. You should have your fun stuff should be up there.
2 words. Distress.
Good news, everyone. Good news, everyone. Weapons free, y'all.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot. I'm Pilot. I'm Fly.
Casitas wares, if you have coin.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy. Casitas wares, if you have coin.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Casitas wares, if you have coin.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
2 words. Distress.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot. I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
2 words. Distress.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy. I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Distress. Bacon. 2 words. Distress. 2 words. Distress.
Weapons free, y'all.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
2 words. Distress. Bacon.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Good news, everyone.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot. I'm Fly. I'm Pilot. Good news, everyone.
2 words. Distress. Bacon.
I like money.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I'm Pilot.
Casitas wares, if you have coin.
weapons free, y'all.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw. Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Kajita's wares, if you have coin. Kajita's wares, if you have coin.
Good news, everyone.
Hello, I like money.
Two words. Distress bacon. Distress bacon.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Two words. Distress bacon.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Let's do this. Star Citizen Live.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
Drugs.
Stop it, chat. Stop it. For those of you who aren't usually here, welcome to what the chat does when I leave the room. They go crazy. All right, stop it. All right. When I turn off, you complain about it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another special edition of Star Citizen Not So Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. And if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's usually where we take about an hour at the end of our week and we sit down with our developers and we discuss their work, their lives, their habits, their love of chicken. On this week's show, we are pre-taped because I'm going to Bar Citizen Milan this weekend, and we have a special guest here in the studio available to do a show live, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. Joining us on the show for the first half here are esteemed members of the EU-PU feature team. We got Torsten and Guillermo. Torsten, Guillermo, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
Thank you.
Left
All
for
right,
chicken.
so you're here today because you presented the resource management presentation at CitizenCon this year. And we collected some questions and we tried to do a follow-up show about 2 weeks ago, and we unfortunately had some terrible network and computer-related problems. We weren't able to finish your show, so thank you for being here. Torsten, can I ask, what brings you to Manchester in person? It wasn't this. I don't have that kind of budget.
No. Actually, it's two reasons. So one is the restructure that will happen next year. So meeting the folks that come over from the squadron team and get to know them. So because they will be working closely with me on the PU. And the second, more important for the community, is actually the release.
The fucking Swedish chef just chilling out on the fucking bar.
The soon to be released Structural Salvage, because we have our go no go at the end of the week, and and because of the importance of the feature, we decided it makes sense to come over and help the team to get it ready.
Well, that's the virtue of Frankfurt just being a hop, skip, and a jump over the channel anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right. So a few weeks ago, we put up a thread collecting questions. We collected those questions from you, the Star Citizen community, and let you vote up which ones you wanted to see answer most. Then Guillermo and Torsten went through the questions and pulled the questions that they felt they had the best answers for, and we're just going to jump into it. So the first question, which actually is sort of answered by our SRV episode that just aired yesterday by the time people see this, will soft death ships be repairable? We know from ISC the answer is yes, but can you give us any more information on this? How does this work?
So the first thing is that soft death is a bit of a temporary solution. We don't have the full damage penetration. We showed a placeholder for it at CitizenCon. And I think everybody saw the Maelstrom presentation with the ships breaking apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be part of it. What we right now have for soft death eventually will be more of a systemic thing, in that some ships, if they kill your power plant or they kill all your relays, or you have a very bad crash landing and you no longer have wings, or your ship is no longer able to fly or to move under its own power. There will be some degree of repairs you can do manually if you get spare parts or you've got engineers working on it. But as you mentioned, the SRB is also the solution when that ship cannot fly. There's nowhere to repair it on the field. You just throw it back to a base and do the regular repairs there.
And so I understand. So like I said, right now we have this soft death. It's this the entire thing doesn't just destroy. It just becomes kind of a potentially useless hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But with the SRV, we'll now be able to grab it with a tractor beam and pull it back to a repair station and get it repaired instead of waiting for the insurance payout.
The repair isn't in yet, so you will be able to move it, and but repairing, I think, doesn't, like, we didn't prepare it for that yet. So there is no drop-off points yet with the SRV, but for the future, that will be the case, that you have like the dedicated drop-off points where you can then fix the ships that you cannot repair on site anymore, especially the bigger ships with because there's the concept of size 1 and size 2 ship items you can replace, right? You can pull them out with a tractor beam and pull something or push something back in to that, whereas with like the bigger items, size 3 and size upwards, you cannot remove. So if they are destroyed, you lost them, and then you need to bring the ship that is now dead in the water into the hangar and have it repaired there.
Gotcha.
So my guess is what they're going to have is either a hangar or specialized hangars for drop-offs for repairs. I almost certainly they're going to have a repair hangar, which is going to be different from your regular hangars. And my guess is that you would bring it over to a point and that you drop it off at, and then the repair hangar would then tractor beam the ship into the hangar. So like there might be like tractor beams that kind of emerge from the hangar and then kind of suck it back into the hangar to lower it down to get it fixed. So repair shipyards. Well, repair docks, basically.
After 322, some version of you'll be able to bring the soft death ships back to specific places to get them repaired.
No.
So you can bypass the recovery thing. And then, of course, as Maelstrom and more elements of the physicalized damage system comes online, soft death itself goes away.
No.
And it just becomes, your ship can now be disabled through a variety of methods and therefore resolved and fixed through a variety of methods. Okay? Mm-hmm. Next question. With the implementation of the engineering role, how hard will it be for a solo player to fly a multi-crew ship like the Cutlass, Constellation, or anything bigger?
So it will be harder, but only it will be harder if you have a ship that already has a certain age. So if you have your brand new ship that you just pulled out of your hangar for the first time, the wear and tear is non-existent on it. So that means that there is no maintenance required. So if you prepare the energy management on the ship, no matter how big the ship is, you can fly it on your own. But does it really make sense? Because then you are suddenly on the move, then you might get attacked, so parts will get destroyed on your way. That will result in, you from the pilot seat have to get up and then walk over to those destroyed pieces and repair them. So yes, you can do it, but like it will be a real pain to actually maintain your ship. So yeah.
This is pretty consistent with the messaging we've had since the beginning of this. We introduced the idea of the engineer role at CitizenCon 2952, then followed up on it with an ISE towards the beginning of this year, and then you guys followed up on it with the resource management presentation at this year. So we've done 3 pretty hefty deep dives into this idea of engineering and the resource management system. And through all 3 of them, it's been pretty clear, this doesn't make it impossible to operate by yourself. It's just going to make it easier and more effective if you bring friends, if you bring talented and skilled friends who understand these roles. But if you're willing to put in the elbow grease.
And that was always very important to us, that we make sure that we don't block away the content for players that really would like to fly out their ship.
Yeah.
And it works. They can travel from A to B, and if they avoid combat and if they make sure that they maintain it, when they have the time to actually maintain it and bring down the wear and tear again. Yeah, sure, it will run smoothly, with fresh cars, right? So you can also have a fresh car that just doesn't break that easily, right?
Yeah, and it also comes down to the difference between single fighters or any ships with interiors. And if you're in a fighter, you lose a component, well, that's it. Your wing is gone. You cannot stop and, you know, attach it again. Or, well, you know, any of your internal components get hit, you're dead. When you're with a multi-crew ship, I mean, you can just take that damage and you know accept that you no longer have shield generators. The difference obviously is if you have a crew, they can put out fires, they can really mitigate that damage, or find solutions for stuff that if you're solo, well, it's going to be more complicated. But again, the ship works. It's not like we're going to purposefully make multi-crew ships bad, or like worse. It's kind of the opposite. If a multi-crew ship with a crew ends up being more survivable, more effective, because again, it has, all these redundancies. If it's on fire, you can put it out. If there's a missing component, you can replace it, which is something you don't get.
It's building an effective baseline for a single player and then finding ways to improve the experience by adding friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same if we're talking about turrets. Obviously, you have friends in the turrets. Well, you can shoot better because you actually have access to those guns. Or if you get boarded or somebody stows away, you have more friends inside. Well, again, that's also a plus.
Maybe.
So, yeah, so do your maintenance before leaving the hangar, but you're still going to get wear and tear as you go through. And of course, if you get hit or attacked, and I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do PvP. It's like, great. Pirates will still attack you. Like right now, you're living in a very peaceful bubble compared to what's going to happen in the future. Won't happen all the time, but it'll happen enough times, especially depending on where you're going, that you're going to have to deal with it. It's not that you can't solo ships. It's that it's very inefficient to try to solo ships, and dear God, you're going to fail. Spartan warrior with a double chin. I do have a double chin, and I am 6'1". I don't know if I'd call myself a Spartan warrior. I definitely need to lose weight, though.
With your friends, my friends aren't.
So Drake owners are crying right now? What do you mean? All Drake ships are soloable. Like, easily.
That's good.
Yeah, well,
David.
If you send a UPU playtest, yeah, it tends to be we kill ourselves accidentally. So
you had something you wanted that you were thinking about adding there, Torsten.
I'm sure you can fly a Kraken solo. I don't think it'll be very efficient. We'll see how long it takes before you explode. But
No. Okay, good. Let's see. Next question is about repair. Are mini games planned to fix things, or is it just nothing but magic beams over and over and over again?
So there were plans for
beams. I demand beam citizen. None of this bullshit tiny mini games. I don't want to have to play Tetris to be able to repair my ship. Give me beam to shoot at a thing and make it repair. Magic beams.
or having more bespoke repair, but that will not be part of the initial release. We will just go for the simple solution first, and then we will observe how that actually is perceived by the community. And if there is the necessity to actually make it more complex or more bespoke per item, then sure, we will think about that. But for now, it is really a very...
I still don't think hacking should be a minigame. I think hacking should have... So the hacking minigame would make a lot more sense as... because it's like, okay. Soapbox time. Soapbox time. The way that they're doing hacking is bad. It's bad gameplay. It's bad design. It's more of like an afterthought than it is an actual immersive experience. It feels like they're just trying to get it done because they need to get it done rather than actually mattering. And so they're trying to staple on something because they've seen it in another game, sort of thing. One of the problems with hacking in all games is that hacking feels very gamey. It doesn't feel very immersive. And I know hacking actually sucks ass. Anybody who's an actual hacker knows that it requires hours and hours of time, or a lot of times just social engineering to be able to get what you need to do. It's not really shouldn't really be a thing. My belief is that what they should have is a dedicated hacking tool, which works with a classic sci-fi cyberpunk trope of decks, where you have programs which you can run at different times. And the minigame is focused more around looking at code and maybe even color matching code for some of the earlier ones. And all you need is a certain small number of programs that you can run on your Mobaglass or on your specific hacking tool that you go through and kind of stuff like that. So that you have those programs you can run. But the other option is not having to use those little programs, but being able to see the code and know where, like the details upon that code of where the weaknesses are. Something that feels like it's realistic without it being gamey, you know? No, because Mass Effect has like way too many, is way too gamey. What I mean is, like, say you have a cascading code line, right? Or you're looking through a code and you're looking for specific like names or specific colors. Or maybe there's a scanning option. Once you have the code line down, you scan and you look at those, it kind of analyzes the code for a few moments, and then it highlights a certain number of things on that code line, and it's just like yellow, red, green, blue, and you just have to hit the right combination of which one's first, second, third, or fourth, and they let you get in. You want something that's more, that feels like it's there rather than it's just being a game. Does that make sense? Yeah, but you don't want it to be like Fallout is pretty close to what I was thinking about, but you know, you'd use programming language, Steve. You'd use a simple programming language. Missed the invite. Oh, for the earlier
very simple repair mechanic for the items. And then we will see, because what we don't want to do is like you need to read a handbook to actually understand like, okay, what item do I actually need?
Or have to learn a programming language where you have to learn Banud in order to read it. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you did it in like C++ or some other thing, you could easily have random gibberish and then figure out basically have it. And the point of being is like, if there's a way that you can do it so that a player who understands what they're looking at can do it without the code, without the gamification, can still figure it out and fix the problem, but also have the gamification, which takes time and effort, or time and some basic knowledge, would improve the gameplay, because that would feel very much more like immersive. If you know, oh, this is the code for security, this is the code for like firewall, and yeah, there'd be tutorials up there as well, but you just have to change up the some of the wording and stuff like that. Or you can do it in binary. Yeah, that would work too. Like, it doesn't really matter. As long as you had some sort of tool that would make it easier, or obviously having a tool to do it in the first place would make sense, but having a tool that has systems that makes it easier but takes more time versus someone who is skilled at that event. Because right now what they have is Pac-Man. That's what hacking is now. It's Pac-Man. Yeah.
What resistor do I need? Like, what capacitor do I need? That doesn't make sense that we have to make people study.
Sources has always been about game about being prepared. If you want cyberdecks with limited uses, prepared one-time codes, minigame should be for crafting for specific payload for your performance, makes a tier. If you have a door hacking code prepared, I guess you're blowing up the door instead. Stuff like that. That's what I mean. Like, if you look at it and you have a hack code, you have like a tool that has 3 different programs on it, and you find a door that's like, fuck, I need a 4th program and I don't have it. Well, kick the door open. That kind of thing, you know? Yeah, it's Pac-Man hacking. That's the reason why I'm like, it sucks. We pull open. This is hacking. Now, obviously, this is an early version of it, but it's Pac-Man. It's a maze. It's maze.
Our game to actually be able to play.
Well,
it.
the different
So
ones
it's
spawn
still
more
a game.
ghosts. Yeah.
We are a simulation-driven game, so we want to tailor to that. But yeah, we really
I want a space
this
game, not a life simulation. But I mean, what I just said is something that is easy enough for you to figure it out if you have the right tools for the job, but also allow for players who really get really good at it to be able to use it without those tools. Yeah, that works. If I had to make a hacking gameplay, I'd have it make like a code injection where you actually have to remove parts of the code computer to hijack it and inject codes that would make would buy at places like Grimhex. That's effectively what I'm talking about. Something where you have a program which could do different aspects or control different things. So yeah.
Feature also to be out, so we don't want to like overcomplicate it and then block the release of it.
Yeah.
So
it's hard because there isn't one brush you can paint all Star Citizens with.
Yeah.
There are folks who want that 15-person multi-crew capital ship experience. There are people who want to be alone in a Star.
Best hacking defense, a Karna. Shoot them before they hack.
Warfare out in the wilderness, you know, just helping people with nobody else's like this. And then there's 100 brushes in between. So finding that sweet spot is always a bit difficult. But I agree with this idea that you know you get it out in a simplistic in a functional form, and then you see how it fits with everything.
If anything, the developers should have good insights for making good hacking gameplay. I fucking hope.
Else that makes up the entire physicalized damage system, and then it's like, okay, if it does need more complexity, then we add more complexity, and it could be that all the other complexity we add for all the other systems is plenty, and repair is just fine with a simple beam kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about, Luna Maria, but I'm talking about like other things, and for like repairs a certain way. I wouldn't want to repair that would be a mini game. I'd prefer the beam which works to keep it stable. But if certain internal components get damaged, then it can only go to a certain health point before it gets down. So having to pull open the case, pull it out, pull open the case, pull the subcomponents out and replace it with a new subcomponent and push it back in. That feels more like physical without a beam, but also the consequence of like you're getting damaged. That's as complex as I'd put it at. So
yeah, and though that applies to actually repairing the item with the beam, obviously you still have the damage control of the whole ship, which involves you can have fires, you can have bad atmosphere, you can have actually loss of atmosphere or toxic atmosphere due to a fire, or you could also have relays being knocked out and you need to figure out which items to turn off or turn on to compensate and keep fighting as well as you can until somebody can repair that. So there is already a degree of complexity to the damage handling, but yeah, the main thing is going to be right now for repairing just the beam. And
no, I'd rather have the beam fixed component, etc., to keep it simple but engaging. Yeah, but I mean, it's what I just said is the same idea. It's basically that. It's you still use the beam to fix it, but kind of like how we have our damage states for us, where we at a certain point, like you're not going to get past a certain health until you get certain treatment. Having your component will never go past a certain health until you fix that subcomponent. That's not I got to do this right now. It's I got to fix that in the future, or it gets super bad and like that component is super fucked. It's like pull it out and replace it, or replace it with a completely new component. Adds a little bit more complexity with that physicality, but it's still just a beam, for most of it.
We'll see.
Yeah, but actually, you mentioned that we already have some items that need bespoke repair. So we have the fuses for the relay that needs to be exchanged. So that is a type of repair. We also have life support that is its own type of complexity with the scrubber.
By the way, when I'm saying hacking, I'm saying mostly like PvE hacking. We're talking about PvP hacking. There definitely needs to be something more than just Pac-Man.
That you need to exchange to actually like at some point they will deplete. So this is also something that can be counted as maintenance or repair in this regards. Then, yeah, like Guillermo just said, fire is its own danger. So that is definitely something that has a bespoke counter to it, which is the extinguisher or even venting the rooms. So there are some things that are already a bit more complex than, like, in comparison what we showed at CitizenCon, repairing the power plant, which is, yeah, you use the beam to repair it. But yeah, as said, so we have already a lot of complexity, and well.
Or the hate towards Pac-Man, because when I think Pac-Man, I don't think hacking. You know, like the mini game for health, for like healing people, shouldn't be you know, based off of asteroids, because that's stupid. Like, it's the same kind of idea. Oh, well, we have Pac-Man. What part of Pac-Man and hacking fix the same time? It's a problem that's not just CIG based. It's a problem that a lot of games do wrong when they have hacking. The hacking is more about like they try to do a mini game to make it engaging, but it's more about, hey, you're doing this instead of your game, and it feels like it just feels off. It doesn't feel right. Of course not, dude. It needs to be TikTok.
Oh. I wouldn't say that our team is the best in handling multi-crew gameplay, but like we try to be good, and it's really hard to manage. Like, even with the amount of people that we had on the ship, you saw us fail in the CitizenCon demo. We blew up. That wasn't.
I'm not gonna try to respond to this because chat's immediately trying to go after me with this one.
Intention that we blew up. We wanted to have a nice success at the end of the demo, but yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, let's leave it in. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of complexity already there.
You make a very good point. I want to be sure we shot. Now, unfortunately, we had to, certain aspects of your presentation at CitizenCon we had to rush through because unfortunately, somebody had to be scheduled after the Star Engine presentation, and they ate up a lot of time on that stage, you know, and deservedly so. But one of the key hallmarks as you were developing the presentation is not wanting to fake anything, not wanting to script anything. You were going to set up the scenario and just fly the ship, and whatever was going to fail, however it was going to fail, and you were going to deal with it however you were going to deal with it. And I really appreciated that when, you know, watching it going, oh, you know, they didn't succeed. It's like, well, you know, sometimes that's what's going to happen. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of Star Citizen is we try to present as honest and as forthright a picture of things as we can whenever possible. And that, yeah, it's like we tried to save it. We didn't do it that time.
Yep.
Speaking of that demonstration, this next question says, earlier in ISC, we saw subcomponents for generators, coolers, and all that stuff. And it even has its own damage model. But in the CitizenCon demo, it looks like this type of engineering doesn't exist. Have subcomponents been replaced by relays, or they just weren't part of that demo?
So, I mean, I guess the fuses for the relays are part of the subcomponents we have. And we also, the life support system also has a set of subcomponents, the scrubbers, for example.
And not only the scrubbers, but
yeah. And well, we were also thinking, you know, maybe some components we were thinking about the other day may need to be subcomponents of maybe the CPU or of the avionics system or of the power plant. So yes, but only the way to say it would be like, yes, we have some components, they're still going to exist in some form, but only if it really makes sense if it's adding some functionality, because that's where just modeling health with.
You don't need to drill down on every single thing just because we need to drill down on every single thing.
Yeah, that's like our credo, or it started to be our credo, which is like we really want to have meaningful gameplay rather than complex gameplay for the complexity.
Hacking with Mass Effect 2 is pretty good, the one with the scrolling code. All I can remember is the color matching one, which I didn't like too much, but yeah.
These sakes. So this is like something that is starting to be very, very important for us. And but also to answer concretely on that question. So we have them on our plan. They are not currently planned for the initial release because there are several reasons, but like especially content would just kill us if we would just say by
Hacknet's too complex, but you could easily take, just like Hard Space Shipbreaker is too complex for Star Citizen Salvage. They've still taken a lot of elements from Hard Space Shipbreaker just by accident, like hole munching and removing components and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the same kind of loop as you'd have in Hard Space Shipbreaker. You have to pull out certain components and pieces first, and then you like rip off the exterior hull plating, and then you kind of like sort everything right properly. Same concept. And they use just cutting beams and tractor beams. That's all they use. So,
by the way, we want to have some components for every item, and then
we're often fond of saying bring it to the point of realism, then bring it back to the point of fun.
Exactly.
Like this, I just saw this wonderful 25th anniversary documentary for Half-Life, done by a guy I really respect, Dan O'Dwyer, who he and his team made it for Valve and whatnot. And there's this wonderful moment where Gabe is just like, I don't play video games to be real. It's like I got realism in the real world. That's not fun. It's like I got to play video games to be fun. There's always this balance. I think there's this misnomer that everything has to be uber realistic, and I'm like, no, it has to be evocative of realistic. It has to have a sense of realism and stuff whenever possible, but you always got to bring it back to fun, and again, not dragging things down with unnecessary chores. I mean, how many DLCs have we ever seen for a game that just seems like a whole new world of chores have been added? It's like, why was this added to this game? I didn't need more chores. So.
And especially something that we always have to consider, like every bit that we add adds to the time it actually takes to get to the gameplay that you actually want to consume.
Yeah. No, I think actually one subcomponent that you may see, it's since the resource network doesn't apply only to ships, it also applies to locations. And one example is for puzzles, for repairing a subnetwork in a particular location as part of a mission, you may get, you need to swap out these parts, which may be bespoke or may also be the same kind of parts we use in ships. So it really depends on the level of complexity we want to add to a particular area of gameplay.
So we're talking about relays. We have relays for power. Are there any plans for additional relay type points for coolant, fuel, or data?
So all of those actually go through the same set of relays. That means generally if you knock out a relay, all the resources you want to get to the items stop flowing that way. What we do have is kind of the opposite. It's relays that do not allow some resources through. This makes sense if you think of the Starfarer. We have the external tanks on one side and you have the internal tanks, and when you're giving fuel to some dude, you don't want to be draining your internal fuel tanks. And as far as the game is concerned, they are the same thing. They're just fuel tanks. Why cannot I take fuel from them? So we added relays that do not allow that kind of connection between both sides of the network. But we still obviously can have an alternate bypass that is turned off by default, and if you want to do that, we would allow it. But yeah, as a general rule, most ships or most situations, you're going to have all the resources going through the same route, and if you lose the connection, well, that's it.
I really like this question, actually. So obviously, there's a generic setup for ships, and different ships will have different numbers of relays and different complexities and stuff. We've been using the Hammerhead as a wonderful example. We showed the
Macross model here. Nice.
Hercules at CitizenCon. It's like this. Will there be a difference between the problems and issues and the capabilities between manufacturers? Like they're specifically asking, he goes, will Drake have more electrical faults on average than like an Origin ship? Drake owners suffer, quite a bit in the Precision universe, mostly just because they like Drake. But is there anything manufacturers? Get off of it. So are there any manufacturer-specific things built in for this?
There are actually two answers to that question. Okay. So the first part is every ship will have a somehow bespoke layout of where the relays will be located and how they will be connected. There will be differences between military ships, civilian ships, with military ships having more relays than civilian ships to allow for more redundancy. There will be also differences between manufacturers, because just like the way that their ships are looking, because we have to fit the relays on them, and that also dictates how the relay or the resource network is actually set up. And So there comes the first difference from, and the second is ship item manufacturers. So it's less Drake itself. So if you have like a very expensive power plant you put in your Drake ship, it will not suddenly like work worse
because it's sitting in a Drake
because it's sitting in a Drake ship. No, it will still like the wear and tear rate will be different. So if you invest more money in your ship items, they are less likely to be affected by wear and tear. Malfunctions might be even triggered.
Dead body going
so item choice will matter in that regards. So even like coming back to the single player, so if you invest a lot of money into your ship and buy the best items ever, you even reduce the amount of like interactions you have to have with the item. So it's more likely that you don't have to run around alone in your ship and try to fix it.
Yeah, and also in addition to brands, I think we already have it in game. You have the different classes of items. In the sense, you have the competition, military, industrial, civilian. That's also part of the balancing there. Competition item would probably have a very short lifespan because it's, we expect you to, to go after the race, go back, change it altogether or repair it. While an industrial or military part is expected to be in the field for a longer time. So that will affect, the wear and tear rate and obviously, therefore,
so
some of the other
component system and everything. Not all Drake ships will be created equally. You'll
so
get to customize the ship.
The grades will get a different meaning. Like the types will get a new meaning to that.
Yeah. Oh, also, since again, this goes back to the damage system, which also, because we, without damage penetration and stuff like that, we don't actually get the fires or the actual damaging of the components. There, the ships also become a bit more relevant. The armor, what materials the manufacturers use normally. We already have some differences planned on, this brand usually uses this type of alloy, which has some certain properties, which is how you get lighter ships or heavier ships or less armored ships.
Swedish chef.
Sometimes I feel bad about making fun of Drake owners, but we're all just having fun, folks. It's in the lore of the universe that the universe generally looks down on Drake owners. None of us think anything less of you. Think
only the snooty folks look down on Drake owners. Like the common, hard-working, salt of the earth folks, they love Drake. Jared, Mr. 1%er, Mr. Snooty, elite ivory tower, Jared.
I am a Drake guy. You look at my ships, I'm mostly a Drake person. I love the Drake.
I take it back. He's a salt of the earth man.
That I'm a big fan of Jim Martin, who invented most of the Drake aesthetic, going all the way back to the.
I love it.
To the Cutlass. So, just know that it's always in good fun, because.
The evocative realism experience that Jake gets into, it's all relative. It is
liking Drake.
I just what I'm thinking about when I talk about like why I don't like the direction that hacking gameplay is going into is that it doesn't match up with the gameplay style that CIG's been pushing for the longest time, which is players can learn to be really good at a topic, and if they are good at the topic, then they can do it better without the handholds, but they still have handholds for players to use if they don't know what they're doing. So some way of making it easier for players who are just starting to access that gameplay loop, but not so stupid and not so dumbed down that like everyone can use it and it's the only way you can use it. It needs to have layers and levels. And I don't think a 3D puzzle game, a 3D maze puzzle game is the answer. I don't think Pac-Man Evolved is the answer to that problem though. So
I'm one of you. Next question. Will there be any kind of danger to the engineer in case of bad component manipulation? Component blowing up in your face?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is if something overheats, it's part of the things that drives into the malfunctions or, the dangers popping up. So yeah, bad heat management, for example, could suddenly lead to, a power surge going through the ship and killing components, or fire starting in front of you, maybe setting you on fire if you're unfortunate. So yeah, to some degree, you can make things worse. You can always make things worse. But we're obviously we're not gonna insta kill you just because you punch at a component to fix it.
Actually, that's the good part of the entire change that will come, which is we are more item focused. So it is less like a dramatic death with the entire ship directly exposed. No, you will start losing items first, and then you might be dead in the water for a long time.
Yeah.
So you're saying I can't do percussive maintenance? I can't take out a knife and just smash the thing to make it work? I want a refund. Refund immediately. Not the game I twitched for. Yeah.
Until someone picks you up, and that is all the consequence. You're just dead in the water if the right components break at the right time. If the wrong component breaks at the wrong time, so if your quantum drive, for example, explodes because of a malfunction, that might have a consequence that is very similar to what we have right now, that your entire ship explodes.
Yeah, the power plant specifically. Soft death really, what it sort of models is either the power plant, died in a peaceful way, so to speak, or
only
you
if you pick up the hammer with the tractor beam first.
Which you just lost power. What we currently have for big explosions is more like the reactor took a critical hit. It went, on its critical load. Nobody did anything about it. It exploded.
I don't want to focus too much on this, but the idea that I could pull a component out and work on it and potentially catch a fire and potentially cause a fire, rather, makes me think of the opportunities for sabotage.
It's something we thought about, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since
I choose neither, Luna. I choose neither.
You can also damage the components with FPS weapons. And obviously you can just take out the fuses or even small components. You can steal them all together. There's a lot of things, a lot of damage a person hiding inside your ship could do.
I'm just thinking about this. A lot of Star Citizens, have come from a game like EVE Online or something where it's you pretend to be somebody's friend, you become a member of their crew. In the course of a mission, you're slowly pulling components out and tuning them incorrectly to cause malfunction. So there's a whole gameplay opportunity there that's exciting.
I think with the last system, we have a very good counter for that, which is once you find a guy, you can just throw them out of an airlock.
Let's see. With ship life support, will opening doors automatically cycle airlocks to minimize wasted oxygen in the atmosphere?
Yes.
No. Yeah. Like if there's an airlock, airlocks work like an airlock is supposed to work. They will actually cycle in. Probably. Ideally in a smart way. If there's good air outside and good air inside, no airlocks work.
In an atmosphere. Opening doors automatically cycle airlocks to minimize wasted oxygen in the atmosphere.
So your cycling won't work in atmosphere? Is that what it's saying? That's what I gather, is that the whole idea of like when you open your door in an airlock and you close it and you cycle it and you open the other door. No, I said it did work. He said no.
No.
It says no.
Like if there's an airlock, airlocks work like an airlock is supposed to work. They will actually cycle in, probably ideally in a smart way. If there's good air outside and good air inside, no need to cycle. But in most cases, the airlock will behave as a real-world airlock suit. On the other side, if you open the door of, let's say, you open the cargo bay of an HU while you're in space, well, there goes your air.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not all ships are ideal for all scenarios. Some of them are, have these EVA suit lockers, and they have these double airlocks, and
But we should be able to cycle out the air in those sections of the ship, though, right? For storage. So like depressurize portion of the ship, so that say a fire happens. Even if it's not an airlock.
Particular paths to get to space, which are safe. In others, they are not really that good for that. Obviously, you can always bend your ship so you don't lose the air, but that also comes with its own challenges. Your engineer or whoever is on the console needs to manage it properly. So that's also where part of the...
What happened to air shields? There are air shields, they're just not on all the ships. Like the air shields were originally planned to be on the Cutlass, but they've been removed. So I think the only ships that have air shields are the larger ships or like the Tavaran ships.
Seep rolls will come in, which are better built for certain scenarios versus others.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to add too much automation to it because you want to leave the agency in the hands of the players. And, to be both good at managing it and to be bad. That's a certain agency too. Like some people like being bad at Star Citizen.
Yeah.
On David.
Yeah, we cannot make it too safe, else you don't get hurt and it's not funny on YouTube.
Will we need to memorize ship layouts, or will we have the ability to target subsystems as well as our point of impact directly? Or will that require more advanced scanners or dedicated scout ships like the Terrapin or Hornet Tracker to allow sharing this information across the wing of ships? So basically, is there a reward for the more that you personally understand the layouts of ships and where to shoot and where these components are for bullet penetration and stuff? Or is the scanner system just going to take it all for us?
Well, we're going to have sub-component targeting. It kind of exists in some form in the game, but it's not really...
I think Yogi showed it even at CitizenCon.
Yes,
yeah, actually,
that's the airfield.
For the turrets,
that's an airfield.
Obviously,
it
will also be used for stuff like, try to hit the power plant or try to hit any other internal component. At the same time, yes, if you know it, if you know where each ship's components are, you already know where to shoot. Obviously, the targeting helps you, but anything you bother to learn or any experience you have is always going to be superior, I think. Yeah. Especially when it comes back, you mentioned sabotage. In that case, your use of scanners is a bit more limited, and knowing exactly where you need to go, how to deal the most damage, it's always a good skill to have.
We talked a little bit about scanners and anti-scanners last week with the FPS and flight teams and stuff. And Chris has always maintained throughout the course of this project's development that there will be counters to all of these technologies. It's like as you develop scanning, you also develop jammers and stuff. And it's like if I've got a level 2 scanner, then my scanner can overcome a level 1 jammer. But if they've got a level 3 jammer, then my level 2 scanner is going to have some trouble until I go and swap it out for a level 4 scanner. This constant kind of escalation that happens in the real world. So yeah, if you find yourself jammed and whatnot, you can't target stuff. If you do know this stuff, if you do know, I'm very familiar with the Connie Phoenix, and I know that the big relay, the big central relay is right around here, and the damage system, the full damage system is online with proper penetration and everything, and you can draw fire on that. You'll be rewarded for that kind of information.
Yeah, we even had that already in our demo, right? So we have a faked penetration there, and because we knew where we need to shoot, we could potentially target the power plant.
And ships have weak points, not necessarily made on purpose, but simply of the way they're built. The hull is not the same thickness in all places. The ship components, are not distributed evenly. So knowing, if your weapon can make it through the hull and the shields, and that on that particular part of the ship, it's easier to hit the components. I think that's always a win. Something good to practice and learn.
It's going to be interesting to see how that affects pilots and the way they fly too, knowing where your weak spots are and learning to not expose them during combat and stuff. It's got a lot. The resource management system has a lot of knock-ons to many aspects of gameplay.
And actually, that is what we are all looking forward to, right? So we really want this, that maneuvering and knowing your ship well gives you an advantage over you don't care about your ship.
For single crew vehicles, how will the pilot be notified that components need to be addressed?
Well, your ship will be on fire. No, but it's currently you already have. With the new MFDs, you're going to have probably a better display. You already know that you have this like little picture of your ship in the MFD, and you say when you get hit, you see the the red mark, and the components slowly go red from blue. That's going to be part of it. Obviously, you also get the messages. I think if you play in the game right now, you already have the first set of misfires. These are the old ones, the seal failure or thruster surge, stuff like that. You're going to keep seeing that. That's also part of the new system. They are triggered, using the new logic, but they're still the same effects. But yeah, in general, it's going to be mostly that, because as a pilot, you have very limited, on a single seat fighter, you have very limited action you can take against that. Obviously, you have your triangle capacitor wheel. you can, put more power to the seals if your things are getting hit. But at the end of the day, if you are losing a cooler or something like that, other than turning off items altogether, there's really not a lot you can do, which is, the weak point of fighters. They don't really have that staying power in the end.
We're almost done. We've got time for maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll let you go. Is the life support system in a room also tied to a fuse that can break? So I might lose access to controlling a room's atmosphere and be forced to go deal with the fire personally instead of just venting it.
Yes. Yeah, so it's even a bit more than just that the life support itself is connected to a relay. It's like each room has a vent that is then connected to its own relay. So it might even be that if a relay is destroyed or not connecting to the vent anymore, that you just lose connection to one of the rooms. Whereas, like, if you hit the life support cannot provide the rooms anymore. So that would be a total failure. But there's the concept of the vents that are sitting in each room, and they control the composition of the room, the temperature of the room. So if then the vent loses the connection, you lose the control over that room, and you have to go in there or go to the relay, fix the relay, so that you have the control over the room again, or you go directly into the room to fix what broke there.
Yeah, or you could just open a door, or I guess
or open a door.
It can be dangerous in space, but you can do that.
Actually, that is also a good counter. So because what the question was before, like, do we automatically cycle? No, and that helps there, right? So you can open the door to the room that is currently not connected anymore and make then oxygen flow from one room to the other, or even vent the other room so that the room that is currently on fire, you don't have any control anymore, is then venting the other room with itself so that you can deplete the fire there.
While we're still talking about life support, where does the air come from? Is it stored in tanks, or does the life support component take electricity and simply generate air?
Yeah, well, that is an open discussion right now. So it might change. So as of now, we have a tank that stores the atmosphere that you have in your rooms. So if you have a room, let's take an example with one room, and you want to vent that room. We don't vent the atmosphere in that room outside. We vent it into an auxiliary storage so that you don't lose it, because we see the atmosphere as a finite resource, and you should really care about your atmosphere in space because it's a precious resource, right? And so you vent it into the storage, so you have the room now completely empty with the atmosphere, and if you decide to fill the room again, it is taking the atmosphere from that storage back in. Sure, we also thought about, okay, what happens when you accidentally vent it? So we have some auxiliary atmosphere sticks that you can put in, and then we, by chemical reaction, magically create atmosphere for that room or for the rooms of the ship. But the idea is that you always have these storage that you have to manage. So you fill it because and you have this concrete finite amount of atmosphere on your ship that you have to manage.
Yeah, and we also separate it along that way in the sense that there are tanks for oxygen and inert gases, but also for waste gases that we don't want in the atmosphere at all. There's different tanks. So yeah, managing it also limits how quickly you can get rid of good or bad air in both cases.
But also a nice way to catch atmospheres, actually, like if you lost, you did a mismanagement and your auxiliary tanks are empty, and you're breathing through your suit and you're depleting the oxygen from your suit. So what you can do is go into an atmosphere of a planet, open all the doors, and then suddenly all the atmosphere rushes in, you close the doors and go up again. You just have to make sure that the atmosphere of the planet is actually breathable. But that is also a valid way to fill your ship back with atmosphere.
It's kind of like, I'm imagining those cans of Perrier from Spaceballs.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, I think 2 questions left. How often will we encounter malfunctions and fires in normal gameplay? This question comes up after every
time, and every time it's the same answer. It's like fresh ships, very unlikely for any malfunctions. There might be some that are happening, but very minor ones. So you can even ignore them and live with them. But like if you have a ship that has several hundred hours and like the wear and tear is really, really low or really, really high, then you have to maintain it more often.
Yeah.
But we really want to make sure that it is not like annoying for players. Like we really, but this is something that we will balance once we have it out there and players give us feedback on it.
Yeah, it's really more about, for the long-term maintenance, it's more about some items being a bit less, I say, reliable. If you keep using it, it's kind of a way of telling you, hey, use something new. And with salvage and all the ways you have to get components, it's not that hard. Or you have to pay more attention to your components. But stuff like fires or anything really critical that is crippling, you're not, your ship is not going to randomly burst into flames. That's more of a consequence of damage control. You're in a fight, you take a direct hit to a relevant component, you get an electrical fire. But so you shouldn't expect that to be cruising around Stanton and suddenly 3 rooms are on fire and you die.
But we also want to reward player choices there. That is, if you decide to like run your ship only with 20% of the performance it could run in, like have the power plant always run at 20%. So basically underpower your ship. That also has an impact on the malfunction rate. So the less you push your ship, the more likely it is that there won't be any malfunctions. But also the other way, like if you are in a combat scenario and you like want more than 100% out of your ship items, sure, that will dramatically increase the chances for malfunctions there.
Is there an RNG factor in this though?
Yeah, sure.
Is it conceivable that somebody's just going to have a really bad string of luck?
Yeah, but it's dependent on the wear and tear and it's the health of the item. So we have parameters that make it, gives us more control over when these are happening. But sure, there will be some RNG.
Yeah, for some of them, it's the conditions are more like thresholds. You are overheating by this amount. You have the power throttle over this amount. So we know you're pushing your ship. At that point, we start rolling a dice from time to time, where either nothing happens or one of the maybe minor malfunctions happens or the moderate ones happen. For other cases, we just want to say, based on the wear and tear, even at that point it has to be very, very rare in the sense that yes, we do it randomly, but maybe the mean time is supposed to be days or something like that. Simply like it could happen, but we're more interested in the player choice aspect, overheating, running your ship at overclock all the time, stuff like that, which we think is more like the cost for that choice you made.
I get you. Last question, and normally we avoid when questions and stuff like that, just because we've been talking about resource management engineering for about 13 months now since we first introduced it at CitizenCon last year. There's a lot coming to Star Citizen in 2024. At CitizenCon, we did 2 days worth of look at all this stuff. A big chunk of the squadron team is coming back to the PU. They're bringing all the work, or much of the work rather, that they've developed along with them. This was always the plan since we had Rich Tyrer on a SCL 2 years ago saying that they were switching this priority. We used to go PU and then into squadron, and we were switching the priority to go squadron and then into PU, for most of our feature stuff. We're now 2024 is now where we're going to see the big reaping of rewards of that technology, and everybody's very hyped for it, and appropriately so. Resource network not being one of those things that was developed in Squadron and brought over. Oh,
well, actually, for the CitizenCon, since Squadron had a requirement of to have the resource network.
Okay.
So because we want to get rid of the old pipe system, we actually move it from the PU, well, not from the PU, but from our feature stream to Squadron 42. We did all the development that was done for the CitizenCon, the UI, and the actually tying it to fires, fixing up the live support, all of that was done in the Squadron 42 stream. So in a way, it's actually
so even this, okay.
So in a way, it's actually coming back too.
All right. So okay, then the question is even more appropriate. What kind of time frame are we shooting for? I'm not gonna. Don't look into the camera and be like, it will be in this thing. I wouldn't believe you if you said that. But we have targets. What are we shooting for? What's the? You kept saying not in the first iteration. What's this first iteration of resource management intended to look like, and when are we shooting?
So we are targeting Q2 next year with the release of life support, fire, and the engineering gameplay. So the base resource network with all the base functionality. So that will have also the repair beam with it. The item functionality that we showcased in the demo. So basically everything that you saw in the demo, that is the plan for Q2.
Awesome.
Nice.
Torsten, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work. I know you've got that big go to get to. I appreciate you taking a little time for us and being over here. We're gonna come back with a dear friend of mine, Jeff Zanelli, composer of many motion pictures and composer of Squadron 42. We're going to talk a little bit about him. Let a whole bunch of our community meet him for the very first time since we haven't had him on in so many years. And during that switchover, we had you may have seen the post-credits gag in yesterday's ISC. We originally had something else in that slot. Tom, who is one of the partners that we make Inside Star Citizen with, is the world's largest Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. And every time we were shooting those SRV interviews, he continuously was asking people, do you know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is? And he was very disappointed in that so many of our developers unfortunately did not. Do you guys know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is? Yeah, see that's what he was running at, and he was so frustrated with this. He went and personally recorded his own little guitar riff and outro, celebrating the majesty of Stevie Ray Vaughan, tremendous blues player that he was. We booted it out of yesterday's episode in order to showcase my dumb thing, but I promised him that we would showcase it here. So we'll be right back, and until then, enjoy just a little brief taste of Stevie Ray Vaughan by way of Tom, our cinematographer.
The Argo SRV, I'd say, is my pride and joy.
Yes.
Greetings, citizens. I'm composer Jeff Zanelli. I wrote the music for Squadron 42, and I want to talk to you about something very close to my heart. This is the soundtrack album. And I just want to go over a few highlights. First piece I wrote for Squadron 42 is called Coil Commanders. Actually, my nickname in college. That's where I got that. And I hope you like saxophones. We have another one, Admiral Bishop's tax return. You're not going to believe when you find this part in game what's actually going on in this story. It's there's a lot of money laundering subplots and lots of paperwork and stuff in the game, and so I wanted to make sure that
can confirm
there's like a paperwork theme, because I know a lot of people care deeply about taxes, tax returns, and Admiral Bishop. So we found a way of combining all of those things. Got another one. We've got Single Player at Night. It's about Jared's love life. Hey! Hope you like saxophones. I do. I hope you like saxophones. Oh, here's a good one. Bagel carrier. 40 seconds of food transportation. Bagel carrier. You're gonna want that. I was thinking really, really hard about what I should name this piece, and I decided on Intense Space Action. Those are the three words, the three important words. I hope you like saxophones. The other thing, pimp your spaceship. That's right. That's you guys were asking me about space radio. Pimp Your Spaceship is the new hit. Gillian Anderson is in this. I wrote a song about that. Oh, I'm supposed to talk about the F8 Lightning, I think. Is that right? Oh, right. Sorry. No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay. I mean, I already talked about the tax return. Okay, no, that's okay. Colonel Blair's funeral. Ay. What else can we do? And I hope you like saxophones. Some of you have heard my piece, Vertical Slice. Wait till you hear Horizontal Slice. That was so bad. So there it is, the Squadron 42 soundtrack. You can buy it in any format you want, as long as it's CD. I'm Jeff Zanelli. composer for Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and I approve this CD.
Fucking shit.
Love those fresh air canisters.
Oh, that was the OG one he did 8 years ago. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah, no, Jeff Zanelli's been around for a little bit. He's done a lot of. He did the new Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. He's I guess Hans Zimmer, right? I said Hans Zimmer, and then people said, "Oh, you mean Hans Zimmerman?" I said Hans Zimmerman, and everyone's like, "Oh, you mean Hans Zimmer?" I'm like, "What?"
Back. That was a brief skit from the old Reverse the Verse live days with our next guest, composer Jeff Zanelli. Jeff Zanelli is the composer for Squadron 42, and we haven't had him on the show for several years. Since then, we've garnered about 2 million new Star Citizens who maybe have never met him, never seen him, so we thought we'd take this opportunity with Hold the Line and CitizenCon to bring him back on the show and introduce him to folks who maybe haven't heard of him and revisit for those who have been following his tremendous work. So Jeff, welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks for bringing me back.
Everybody, geez.
It has indeed been a minute. But
Do you think he has enough guitars?
No, it's pre-tape. You think I'd stop this and redo it, but no, we're just going to leave that in. It's still Star Citizen Live, even though it's pre-tape. I just called Jeff, everybody. Jeff, thank you for being here. I want to talk a little bit. I want to introduce you first to our Star Citizen Squadron 42 community. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, got a question. Hold on.
You can take away my spaceship.
Oh gosh, am I getting?
You can take away my space suit.
Of course, I drop in.
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
UK Dude 2 just resubscribed for 31 months.
Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub, UK Dude, for that 31 months. You're a very important pupper, very impressive mister of any pedestrian. This is your fault. The reason we're trigger night. Trust and cheers and chat, y'all. Trust and cheers. I got a question. It's very off topic. From the SC lore, which fighter is the strongest ever built? F8C would be obvious. F8A. The A is better than the C. But what about the Vanguards? They're very well armed. I think they're supposed to be the only ship that's capable of withstanding Vandal's melee attacks. Wouldn't that be a combination? Make it top notch. No, F8 is probably better because it takes all of the things they learned from the Vanguard series and makes it a little bit better in terms of withstanding combat as well as dishing it out.
Okay. You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
I broke everything, chat. Is that a new member? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, chat. Anyways, I'm going to go back to this before it starts going crazy again.
Sure. Well, I'm Jeff Zanelli. I write music. For
showing up
video
as a
games,
member.
for films, for television, for all sorts of different
Usually
visual
does.
media. I mean, I guess that's been me in a nutshell for many years. So, yeah, that's it. I'm writing the score for Squadron 42, which is a epic journey in and of itself. Let's put it that way.
So how'd you get into the industry? Usually in these kind of get to know me segments, we usually cover. I'm always amazed. Like many people can do almost anything with their lives. Why in the world did they choose this? So that's basically my question to you. Why in the world did you choose music composition?
No, it turns out that I can't do many things with my life. I can do only this with my life. And I say it facetiously, but it is.
I don't know if you're familiar with it. Came across a design document for canceled Privateer Online game the other day, and I was amazed how basically it's a blueprint for Star Citizen. I don't know who was supposed to do Privateer Online, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Chris. I mean, that makes sense.
Actually kind of true. This is my one skill, but what I always
I heard about the
wanted to do
amazing
this,
progress they've made with server meshing in the last 6 months. Amazing and absolutely necessary. Your thoughts? I mean, yeah. Basically, CIG doesn't want to let you know this. Doesn't want you to know this, but because they won't say it themselves because they're setting themselves up for like trying to separate the idea. But replication layer, the separation of replication layer is server meshing. Same thing. The difference is that replication layer only targets specific objects and streams them out of that location, but also streams them back in. It's almost the exact same concept of server meshing. It works the same way. We just don't I don't like talking about it too much because when you talk about it like that, then people just kind of get the wrong ideas for it. So yeah.
So I became a musician pretty late in life compared to most musicians that I know. I was 1 week shy of my 16th birthday when I got a guitar.
I don't know, like Mr. Goal. Okay. It's probably Mr. Gold Ember. Yeah, who's on.
And that was what kind of started the journey, but very, very quickly realized it was going to be a career, music anyway, was going to be my career, and that I wanted to be able to write and change styles and change, genres all the time. And that sort of naturally draws you into film music and media music, games, and, you look at the expanse of the types of projects I get to do, and it's very, very different from being in a band. Plus, you couple that with...
Is that a green screen? It may not be a green screen, but it looks like a green screen.
Like, I don't really like getting in a sweaty bus and traveling across the country with, 5 other people. So I was never going to be in a band. It was not for me. But I don't know that I chose it. I think it really was sort of the only thing that I really could see myself spending my life doing once I got even reasonably good at playing a guitar. It was like, no, this is the path. So.
I'm genuinely envious of that when I hear folks who have that kind of clarity of vision and purpose. I worked 37 places before I landed here. And even here, I'm on my 6th title, and my responsibilities through here have vacillated and changed dramatically in the 9 years I've been here. I never knew what I wanted to do because I wanted to do everything.
Right. I definitely had that clarity of focus. That's exactly.
See, the problem is that if you look at the background, you see this right here. This is a Star Citizen bobblehead. So if this is a picture of his apartment or his home. This is definitely his place. So it's just weird to see that it's and the placement's off a little bit. It just seems like the depth of field is weird. So,
exactly the way to put it. It was a drive, and but I guess on the downside is that I got my last promotion when I was 21. I became composer, and that I shall remain. I guess.
So you've decided to become a composer. Where'd you start? Did you start in television? Did you go straight to motion pictures?
Oh, right. So, yeah, no, okay. I went off to Berklee College of Music, which is in Boston, and I studied there. They had an engineering production track, and they had a film scoring track, which is now called media scoring. And at the time, it was focused on film and television. It was actually kind of before games was even really an industry that you could consistently work in. I mean,
you got to remember, for Jeff Zanelli's age, I don't know how old Jeff is. I'm imagining he's in his 40s or 50s. But if he was going off in say the 90s to go to school, which I think a lot of people here kind of have that familiar experience as well, since I know my audience. Music scoring was a thing that didn't happen until the early 2000s. Like Halo's score won so many awards, partially because it's fucking good, but also there just weren't that many games that had scores written for them. Like Final Fantasy was pretty big for that same reason. But even then, a lot of its scores were still MIDI based. So, yeah.
I'm talking about the early 90s. This was like the beginning of game composer as a full-time, calling. So, but when I finished at Berkeley, I started interning. Actually, even while I was at Berkeley, I would come out in the summers to LA and I would intern for Hans Zimmer, who is a film composer. He was writing the Lion King score when I first met him. To put a date on it, I think that's 1994.
94.
And I was his intern until I graduated Berkeley a couple years later, and then I came out.
You could score MIDI, but like I'm talking about like full orchestral scores, like not MIDI scores. MIDI was the basis for so long, but you just generally speaking didn't have like people like Jeff scoring with MIDI.
Out and worked for another composer who worked at Hans's studio named John Powell. That was really the first job that I had. I was his assistant, John's. And I did that for 3 years. And then I got my last promotion. I went freelance and became composer. So that would have been right around 99 or 2000 is when I went freelance as a composer. And if you look at my credits, you'll see I worked as what's called an additional music composer on John's movies, which means maybe I do a couple of the scenes here and there, but he was largely responsible for the score. Then I did that for Hans on a number of projects. And I suppose the notable kind of breakout project like that for me was the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
You could orchestral score and then restrict it to MIDI if the games couldn't handle more. You could, but you wouldn't have people who intern for Hans Zimmer doing like a video game. Like he's about to say
Caribbean movie where
so it's the first Caribbean. I thought it was the later one. He did the first. That's fucking amazing. Like that's probably the best soundtrack. That's one of the few soundtracks that I still listen to today. So yeah.
It was written rather quickly. I think we had 2 or 3 weeks to write the whole score. So it was Hans and a team of like 8 or 9 composers, of which I guess I sort of moved to the head of the class, so to speak, on the project.
Damn.
And that was the kind of the beginning of the.
To give you the context, the entirety of Pirates of the Caribbean was filmed in 6 months. It was filmed incredibly fast for its scope and score and what it was doing. The Black Pearl, Curse of the Black Pearl, yeah. That one. Whew.
The real, the real Jeff Zanelli as composer story, I guess.
You mean a giant, humongous AAA big budget motion picture like Pirates of the Caribbean only gave you 2 to 3 weeks to compose the score?
Yes, that's
it was a rush production
circumstance.
Okay.
But yes,
you don't need all the Hollywood tea. Don't ruin your career.
So, to give you the context, it was a rush production because it was a rush production, because they needed to get it out before a certain time because they didn't have a lot of budget. So that would make sense as to a brand new composer getting the credits for it is because they wanted Hans Zimmerman as the name, or as the name on the credits, but they wanted somebody who's cheaper.
Career by spilling all the Hollywood.
No. I think it's sort of well established. People know there was another composer on the project before, and that's what happened. So I get a call from Hans, who is now the second composer. The movie was on the final mix stage already. They were already doing the final mix, and they didn't have the score. And Hans called me on a Saturday and said, "You need to get to the studio." Right. I almost did a Hans Zimmer impression, and then I thought better of it. I used my own voice. So you got to get to the studio and watch this movie. We're starting right away. We're finishing in 3 weeks. You can't go to the Justin Timberlake concert. You're going to be working. And so I went to the studio with a whole gang, and it really was literally like Hans had this 5-minute piece of music he'd written overnight, and he gave it to all of us. And then it was like, we just need to start writing music. Just go. And I sort of loved the chaos of that. It was really like being in the eye of a hurricane.
How you know that it was quickly written is, the main theme of Pirates of the Caribbean? It's just a different tempoed theme from Gladiator. They have the exact same theme, but just different tempos. Maybe even different keys. I don't know, but like you can hear it. Listen to them back to back to the same song.
And you know, again, I had, I guess, that sort of clarity and focus. I was able to just put my head down and write music like crazy for those 3 weeks. And it's kind of nice to know when it stops. You know, I know when I get to sleep again. Until then, I will work on Pirates.
I didn't know. We had heard that story. We've chatted a few times. I didn't realize you'd worked with John Powell. John Powell was the Bourne Identity movies and Face Off, and I think, did he do Solo?
He did, but that would have been long after I was. But yes, he did.
Yeah.
But Face Off, funny enough, was actually what got me hired. It was John's first big Hollywood production, and he needed an assistant right away. It was a similar.
Do you know if I can reach out? I'm having issues trying to refund back from Cloud Imperium Games when I returned the F8C Lightning ship. I'm talking to Dead Horses at their support team. Nah, man, I don't know anybody at support that could help you that quickly. It's also, I think they're off right now, so there's a bunch of people that have time off. There's a chat, an unofficial chat on Spectrum that might be able to help you though.
Thing, he had a pretty short schedule, not quite as bad as Pirates, but.
You worked in Team in 15 for 6 years. 6 months of film is an extremely long time. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong with the 6 months. I remember it was like maybe let me look at this shooting schedule. It might have been 6 months from shooting to production to release. I don't know. I remember it having a ridiculously short production time. Five months. So they shot on October 9th, 2002, and they wrapped by March 7th, and the entire movie was released in July. So the whole production took probably 8 months, less than a year, from shooting to the can to being released. That's what I remember. That seemed really quick for me, since I know a lot of films can take years in production and post-production.
So he needed someone right away to just kind of be there and run, largely tech support. I was loading samplers and getting there early in the morning and make sure everything was working so we could sit down and work right away. And
hey, you got that somewhere.
Yeah, that was, but I loved it. Oh my, that's the thing. It's like someone let me in the studio door and I just never wanted to leave. And, that was, it was.
I remember saying, oh yeah, it took them like 5 months to film it, and then they released it in the summer of that year. Just like that seems really fast for a movie, a modern movie.
It still doesn't really feel like work, I mean, of course it is, but
yeah, I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
So okay. So obviously you've begun a healthy film career. Eventually something breaks in your brain and you say, I want to do video games.
No, well, I always did though. It's funny because I mean I'm a gamer with Atari roots, right? Like that's where it started for me.
Yeah.
So
so that's what I mean by like the whole production. Because if I remember correctly, writing began in like January of 2022, and they started casting in like the summer, and then they started shooting in October. So it took them a year and a half from beginning to release for that movie, which is absolutely insane for how good that movie is written too. Like that movie is tight. That script is tight as shit. It's almost, I would say, it's really close to the most perfect movie in terms of how it's written, paced, directed, acted. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like a masterpiece, but goddamn near is in terms of adventure movies.
I'm like the old generation of video gamers, but I think in a way the 90s is really kind of the perfect time to illustrate when video gaming music got super serious. Do you know what I mean? Like that was when you started to hear fully orchestral scores. It was like for a minute there, games were promoting themselves as, oh, we have a full Hollywood sounding score. And nowadays, I don't see that type of promotion because I think the games industry is recognized very clearly we're doing our own thing now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a genre.
So here's the thing. 2001, Jay Wolpert wrote a script based on The Ride. The script was rewritten in 2002. So it was rewritten in 2002. They began filming in October. And then rewritten again by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossino after that. So yeah, it was the script was entirely rewritten between sometime 2002 2000, like, so yeah. That sounds insanity to me. That sounds like less than a year of production.
And it's actually
because
very
June 28th was when
in
it
some ways from film and television, which is also, it's almost like a third career. I'm a little bit lucky. I get to do all three of those things, but some composers, they excel in games or they excel in television or they excel in film, but not the others. So
yeah, it's just one of those weird kind of coincidences. So like, Pirates is one of my favorite movies of all time, the first one, because of how it's written, because of how the characters function, and how the story flows. I think of it as a technical movie rather than as a immersive movie. I can see the immersiveness, like I can see why people, and I like the characters' interactions and that kind of stuff, but it is one of my favorite movies of all time just because of how it does the right thing. Like, your dialogue and your characters is your action movie. Actions like fights are character development, and they do fucking amazing job of that. So
I don't know. I was always built in the way that I wanted to spread out and do something different. And
oh yeah,
the conversation I had.
Sorry, I keep pausing here, but yeah, you didn't know that it takes actors get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and then don't get done until like 11 p.m. Like doing films and television is fucking grueling. It destroys you. And it's everyone. Everyone gets up at fucking god early in the morning, and you're on set for 10 to 20 hours a day, and it breaks you. It breaks you. It's why people hate doing films and it. They love it, but it sucks ass as a process.
I have with my agent all the time is what I want to do next is something totally different from whatever I finished, whatever that means. So I'm not necessarily the composer that's going to do only superhero movies or only sci-fi video games or only horror movies. I love that I get to just go all over the place. That's probably why it doesn't feel like work. I still feel like I'm playing around a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's great. What are some of the video game scores people might recognize from you?
Wow, let's see. So Squadron 42 far and away the biggest video game credit, but I think it's probably the biggest video game credit for anyone.
Oh,
so that goes without.
Oh, that's a spicy take. Marty O'Donnell is fuming somewhere after hearing that. Woo! Woo! That's a shot.
Saying, I worked on an EverQuest Champions of Norath, which was a kind of a spin-off. It was not a persistent universe. I worked on one of the Shrek games, and then I worked on a series of Call of Duty games, which was for the NDS. So that was, this Call of Duty with the stylus and everything. It was really, they were pretty wild, but it was fun because they had their own identity separate from the, I guess the mainline Call of Duty games. But I think, it's not lost on me that Squadron 42 is the
Gecko, you're in the UK, right? If I remember correctly. I keep forgetting where everybody is because if you're in the UK and you work for the BBC, BBC is notoriously shitty. It's the worst fucking like job to work in. It's just they don't pay for shit and they ruin everyone that works for them. So
the peak of my video game career thus far. Well, or probably ever.
Well, fingers crossed. What we've heard so far has been stellar. We're going to get to that in a second. So let's talk about how you got hooked up with Chris and Squadron 42. Where did that come from? I know, was it from your work on Outlander, or
yes?
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So hopefully, I wonder if everybody knows. Chris made a very, very cool movie called Outlander.
It's very good.
Gosh, 15 years ago now, maybe, or close to it, which was a kind of a take on the Beowulf story, but set in Viking times with I guess you'd say a spaceman, an alien man that crashes to Earth and brings the monster with him, basically, and then using Viking technology has to go fight this high-tech monster. It's quite cool. It's a monster movie. It's really fun. It's a multi-genre sort of sci-fi fantasy thing, which is like exactly in the world of what I want to do. And I actually met Chris through, I would have been brought onto that project. Let's see, maybe I met Howard McCain, who directed it, and then I met with Chris and John Schimmel, who produced, and so we made a movie together. I mean, it really started that way. And I think really what happened then was Chris said, I'm making Star Citizen, and it's going to be split into really two worlds. And we have the PU, which everyone's been playing for years now, and we have Squadron 42, which is narrative. Different very much story-wise from the PU. In the PU, the players are writing their own story. In Squadron 42, the player is involved in another bigger story that already exists. And that, I think, is what drew Chris to ask me about it, because it's very much designed to feel like you're moving through a very long, epic story. It's story-driven, and that is, that's, I guess, the province of film composers. He recognized how I was able to tell his very complicated story in Outlander, and then, how that might expand out into the universe of Star Citizen, which is quite...
The two biggest Chris Roberts produced movies, he didn't direct them, but the produced movies, was Outlander and Lord of War.
A big story to tell, so...
Yeah, and of course, Pedro Camacho is our wonderful composer for Star Citizen. You're the composer for Squadron 42. Do you guys ever get to chat? Do you ever get to share notes or meet at a convention or anything like that?
Yeah, well, we've never been in person together. Funny you mention it, but we Zoom every now and again just to kind of sync up with each other. Not necessarily to get the music to sort of, I don't know, cross-pollinate from one to the other. It's really not the goal. It's always been kind of separate identities, but we're both big supporters of each other's work, and I'm eternally jealous that Pedro's music is out in the world already, and you all get to hear it. That's why. So
bagpipes, Jeff, bagpipes. We demand the space bagpipes.
Something like Hold the Line, which you were talking about, is a little glimpse into the enormous amount of work that I've already done on Squadron that won't come to light until people are, until we get it into the players' hands.
Right.
So Pedro gets a kind of a rolling delivery where every few months you all get to hear his new brilliant work. So so I just call him to tell him I'm jealous. That's what.
Well, as Squadron 42 is now feature complete and moving into polish phase and stuff, I'm sure we'll have more and more opportunities for you and me to get together and share your music with the folks.
Hey Jeff, we need some music for the Second Fleet. I got you, fam. Jeff Zanelli.
Before we let you go, I want to talk about Hold the Line. Folks got to hear roughly 20-25 minutes of your Squadron 42 score. I know a lot of folks would ask, was that stuff just created expressly for the video, or is it actually representative of the game, of what you've done for the game? And I want to ask that question, and then add in a supplemental question: bagpipes, and then let you go.
Hey, Salty Dog.
Yes, bagpipes. Maybe I'm going to answer your questions in reverse order because bagpipes is the order of the day. No, so it's funny. Okay. Actually, that sequence, which you do see, you know, the opening, it's a cinematic.
Before he gets to it, I'm going to make a guess because this is my take on it. For his music direction, which is the whole thing is a build up to the Second Fleet, and you're supposed to feel this swelling of holy fuck, like look at the absolute awesome power of humanity's fleet, and that the bagpipes are supposed to be this very war-esque, you know, like almost glorification of the fleet. And it's intentional because it's building up, it's pumping you up. It's like, oh yeah, look at the fleet, this fleet's amazing, before you get into the Battle of Vega, which was a fucking grinder. So, like, you know,
in game, so that music was written very specifically for that sequence, and everything obviously still work in progress, but I believe me, we're keeping the bagpipes. We experimented quite a lot with different instrumentation for the fleet reveal. Let me back it up. Actually, initially,
so, okay, he's about to say it, but yeah, it's the bagpipes aren't just war pipes, but you know, the war pipes, and he also had the drums, the snare drums, like, which is very classic British imperial, you know, combat, you know, like war marching music.
That piece of music is written as a UEE theme. It actually functions sort of like, you know, most of the world's navies have a theme song, right? The U.S. Navy, I think it's "Eternal Father, Strong to Save." It's a hymn, and so we started there. It was something Chris Roberts and I talked about.
Fucking British, the British Navy. God fucking damn it! All right, fuck off.
What if we had a hymn for the UEE Navy? Like, what would their theme be? And in fact, there's even very wide variations of this piece of music already getting used in various parts of the game. We only showed one little glimpse of it for Hold the Line, but that is a theme for the UEE, for the Navy as a whole, and it works in all sorts of ways. It can be very emotional, it can be very somber, it can be very...
I'm playing it. This is a hymn.
Yeah. 6, come in.
Go for 6.
I'm getting a faint contact on bearing 287. You picking that up?
Yeah, got it. Scanning that. We're clear. Commercial vessel out of Vega 3.
No, it's a different. Hymn's different. That's the kind of the anthem. This is the hymn, which is the different.
Archangel, this is Krugeri.
Come back, Krugeri.
Redirect to sector 7 Bravo Echo for immediate tasking.
Copy that. On our way.
Maybe not this. I think this is coming up right here. Yeah, you're gonna get the video. It's not gonna get the sound. Hear the drums. Fuck yeah.
Triumphant it can be.
Now I need that. I'm imagining that's the like UNE Navy hymn from like the first Tavaran War sort of thing.
Officious. It can be used as score. It can be used. There's a set of lyrics actually written for it. So that's a piece of music that's gonna be heard many, many times throughout the game.
I fucking need it, Jeff. I need it tomorrow. What the actual fuck? There's lyrics? It's a hymn? Like a legitimate... God, fuck you. Oh, Jesus Christ.
But the fleet reveal is one of the first times you hear it, and I thought, well, what needs to happen here is it needs to be a piece of music that represents that the UEE is not one country or one ethnicity or one nation's purpose.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
what a Lord
purpose of
Hammer is. Yeah.
Earth. I mean, that it's in the title, UEE. So the piece of music could represent really any culture and all culture from anywhere on the Earth, because here we are united in defense of our planet. So it meant we could go exploring instrumentation, anything really, anything that has the right grandeur for the moment. And so there was an orchestral version of that sequence that played nicely, but maybe felt, I don't know, not bespoke
they
enough
definitely
to the
made
sequence.
up
And
more.
once we got to the bagpipes, and there's also taiko drums from Japan, and there's some drums from South America, and so it actually is a combination of many cultures, to represent, this is our fleet, this is this.
Yeah, but you put bagpipes into anything, that shit's gonna fucking stand out. So what he did is he took traditional war instruments from around the world and put them together, which tracks.
This is the gathering that we have put together to defend the planet. I realize that's a lofty goal for a 10-second piece of music, but this is the type of ambition.
I was gonna say, we're no strangers to ambition here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're no strangers to ambition. Yeah, so that was bagpipes.
That was bagpipes.
So this is, you confirm that this is music that people would hear in the game. It's the UEE theme.
That one is indeed thematic. Then the rest of the Hold the Line video is also squadron music, but not necessarily being used thematically. It's more like, especially because the way it's cut, we're going from location to location and event to event, and we're not necessarily showing it in linear order. No. So you're getting a sense of what the sum of the soundscape of the score will be. But I think there's a lot more than bagpipes that are going to stand out, I think, to make the score.
The current emperor is what's her name? Leilani Addison.
Or feels special for all of the different, especially places, but all of the different story arcs that we're telling with this. I mean, it's a huge story.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, hope you all like saxophones too.
Yeah, well, we haven't done the saxophone version of the UEE hymn. Now that you mention it, maybe I'll get on that.
I still have our fake soundtrack, man. I still got it.
Oh, I love it. Admiral Bishop's Tax Returns was on there. I can't remember if it's track 3. Maybe.
Yeah, it was track 3. Good memory.
Was it really?
Good memory.
Look at that.
All right, Jeff. That's it. That's all we got time for, man. Thank you so much for.
I could keep talking.
No, we gotta save it. We got a whole Squadron 42 promotional thing. We get to start once once the game goes further along, and we'll have plenty of time to talk there. For now, we just want. We had what was it? Technically it was breakfast for lunch, I think is technically what I had. We had our little hang out when we were there, and I said, you know what, let's have you on the show and talk a little bit about some bagpipes and introduce you to some people. And so that's all we're doing for today. So thank you so much. Thank you for waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning to do this over there.
Problem.
And we'll see you later, man. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. I'll see you soon.
So yeah, that's it for this week's show. Special thanks to Guillermo and Torsten and Jeff Zanelli for being here on the show with us this week. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to do that. There won't be a show next week, as I'm going to be off in Ireland for another Bar Citizen event. So if you're in Ireland and Dublin, you can check that out. I'll see you there. Next week, ISC returns with a look at the Pyro Playground and how that all came together and what was involved there and stuff. It was a pretty big event in the development of Star Citizen, and we thought for certain we could take a look at that and how that came together.
It might be a
while
spoiler,
we all head into the amazing new year that was specced out at CitizenCon. There's a lot of stuff coming, so we appreciate you indulging us taking another week to look back at something before we continue to look at all the amazing things going forward. So for
what show is this? Star Citizen Live. I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for watching. And no, this doesn't get any better when it's pre-taped. Bye.
That's true. That is absolutely true. What show is this? Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to call it because I got to get some food. It's late for me. I'm almost time to start office hours for normal time. I've been streaming for almost 6 hours. I've been doing doing this one for over 3, and I just streamed about 2 hours before that. So that was a great segment. I was not expecting that. I heard the resource management stuff. I bet you everyone just clicked off and they're like, Jeff Zanelli. It's like, fuck you. No, please. The artist in me really wants to know. I love stories, you know. That's the reason why I do that's why I'm a historian, and that's the reason why I like doing lore stuff. Yeah, it's 5 hours and 36 minutes and 56 seconds, so. That's cool. So basically what I've learned, what did we learn today, chat? What we learned is that Squadron 42's teams are moving over to Star Citizen and they're being integrated, and that they're very optimistic about how quickly they can turn this into Star Citizen. Possibly Q2. So my guess is that we're going to start seeing major drops of content for Star Citizen from what we saw at CitizenCon, starting in Q1, increasing in Q2, and ending in Q3 would be my guess. So. All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out. Love y'all's your faces. I will see you tomorrow for RSI Day, and of course, Captain's Table after the fact. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.